trust that you'll stay with us until 10 o'clock. Please remember that at 7:30, we're going to be joined by Natalie, and we hope that you'll join us for that just around 7:30 this evening. How is everyone doing? Trust you've had a great day, and that you've been paying attention to the news. There is quite a bit happening all over Jamaica. What's on your mind? We want to talk to you about that later on. And we trust that when we open the lines, you will, of course, join us. Now, there is quite a bit that we have to cover, and it is very interesting. The news has been dominated by the Integrity Commission's report, and a number of persons are now calling on Dr. Wheatley to step aside and allow for the process including Emily Shields of RJR, yes, and Mr. Hughes, Cliff Hughes of Nationwide. I suspect that the government will no doubt, use the weekend to figure things out, and we should hear some news on that either during the weekend or early next week. Here is Mrs. Crooks from RJR. Listen to her.
Good to be with you today, listeners. We come to you live from the AC Hood Player Logical Fashion. We thank you so much for staying with us. And I regret I don't have time this morning because I can't deal with all of the issues in the time available because of the nature of the broadcast I'm on this morning. But I promise you, because the way I treat matters on this program is in such detail, and the details are important, I promise you that I will come back to you with the details, because attention to detail it's an important attribute for individuals to have. There's one particular matter I wanted to deal with this morning, because I've dealt with it in at least two Emily's views before. And that is the issue concerning the imbroglio, for want of, or for finding an appropriate word, the imbroglio at the UHWI. In light of, and there was some very important new information that appeared with substantive details concerning the appointment of a chief executive officer. Chances I've tracked this matter that you get to hear in detail, but we can't bring it all to you this morning. The details put in the addendum to the board meeting about the recruitment process of the chief executive officer. But additionally, I think it's so important that we listen and listen well. I cannot tell you how many times I've had to go over and listen to these meetings, because sometimes it's when you get information that a little bit more clarity comes, information in writing. And why do I say that? I say that because part of the disclosures before the PAC relates to the CEO who was identified by the subcommittee.
All right, I'm going to move up the tape a little bit more and see if I can pick that up.
Officer. And the addendum to the minutes that have been disclosed, I am searching through them to find where it was ratified that acting CEO is to take up the job. And based on what Mr. Chai Chung said, that is taking that right away from you. What I believe you should not be allowed to do is to continue to sit as a member of the executive whilst you seek to clear your name. And you need to understand the distinction. By all means, it may be that the charges against you, when leveled, cannot be proved. Go and fight it. But the collective integrity of the cabinet, it's a very important, intangible thing. And I am amazed that more than 48 near 72 hours after the disclosures in the parliament, and these disclosures are substantially different from the ones that we heard of in any previous Integrity Commission report. And I am amazed that even now you stay put and the Prime Minister has not moved to do anything about your position. Prime Minister, you get it together. This is untenable in so many languages. You get it together. We shouldn't be going into the weekend where Dr. Wheatley remains a member of the cabinet, and it is beyond debate.
All right. So there you have just a bit of what is happening in terms of the views from down at RGR, the talk show host, Emily Crooks, is suggesting that Dr. Wheatley is to be removed from the cabinet. Dr. Wheatley is facing IC recommendations to be charged. The Integrity Commission has recommended. Recommendations are not convictions. It doesn't matter how much noise Emily Crooks make. It doesn't matter how much noise Cliff Hughes makes. It doesn't matter how much noise the opposition makes. I see where some civil society groups have joined, including the church. Recommendations are not convictions. Like Mrs. Shields, I don't have the time to deal with this matter. We have to go to Natalie at 7:30. Recommendations are allegations that go to court for testing. The Integrity Commission's recommendations must be tested in court. The Integrity Commission is not the government of Jamaica. It is not the Integrity Commission that determines who stays or leaves the cabinet. That authority cannot be subsumed or assumed, delegated to the Integrity Commission. we are misleading Jamaicans, and we are being emotive. We are being emotional. And I can deal with this matter of perception, because perceptions are not realities. And what we must deal with are the facts. The Bible says that in the beginning, God created light. And God separated the light from the darkness. And what Jamaicans are being fed is a mixture of light and darkness. And both Mrs. Shields and Mr. Hughes are conflating those two things, light and darkness. Mr. Hughes, you're a very respected journalist. So is Miss Crooks. But light is light and darkness is darkness. Don't mix up the two. A country cannot run on perceptions. And the Jamaican people must be taught. We must develop a country where our people understands what is fairness. Recommendations are not convictions. Dr. Wheatley says he's not guilty. So nobody, no business with that. All we are business with is the IC. We don't want to hear from Dr. Wheatley. Meanwhile, Emily Crooks is demanding that Dr. Wheatley resign. Was Emily Crooks on the ballot? Did Jamaica vote for Emily Crooks? Now, Miss Crooks, you can have your opinion, but you can't demand that. Listen to her. It's ridiculous. Who gave Miss Crooks that such authority?
You stayed put near 72 hours after the disclosures in the Parliament. And these disclosures are substantially different from the ones that we heard of in any previous Integrity Commission report. And I am amazed that even now you stayed put and the Prime Minister has not moved to do anything about your position. Prime Minister, you get it together.
Get what together? What is the Prime Minister to get together? Miss Shields, you are not in any position to tell the Prime Minister what to get together. Go and get together yourself down at RGR. Don't tell the Prime Minister to get anything together. That's not right. Prime Minister must get what together? Get what together? I tell you, I wish I had time tonight too. I wish I had time to just unravel this all for you.
This is untenable in so many language. You get it together. We shouldn't be going into the weekend where Dr. Wheatley remains a member of the cabinet, and it is beyond debate.
It is not beyond debate. Mrs. Shields, you have your opinion. That's Emily's views. So you can't say, You can't talk about it is beyond debate in Emily's views. Emily's views is beyond debate. Don't be ridiculous, man. You can have your opinion, you're entitled to that. But your opinions are debatable. And I am challenging those opinions that you have put forward. That recommendations aren't convictions. They're allegations that go to court for testing. So neither Cliff Hughes, Emily Crooks, the PNP, the church, and other civic groups can remove Dr. Wheatley from the cabinet. And my position, my humble opinion on this, is that if the Prime Minister speaks, the Prime Minister must speak to due process. Jamaica have to learn. The Integrity Commission is not the government of Jamaica. It does not have executive powers. It can only recommend. And you know what we're going to find happening in Jamaica? You know what is going to happen 21 minutes after 7 o'clock? That so long as the IC recommends, you have to resign from cabinet. What can go so? Then suppose next week one minute report come out. Then a man have to resign from the cabinet. What can go so? Is what is happening in this country, Jesus. It can't work like this. And my humble opinion is that the Prime Minister needs to speak to process and explain to Jamaica how the process works and allow Dr. Wheatley to carry on his responsibilities while at the same time clear his name. I think that's a fair position to take, and I don't think it is unreasonable. I don't know what this hullabaloo is about. By the way, I think people should understand that the government is not involved in this case, Nor is there any one red cent of taxpayers' money involved here. There is not one red cent missing from the public's purse involved in Dr. Wheatley's case. So why is Dr. Wheatley to leave the government? It's not taxpayers' money we're talking about here. If it was taxpayers' money, well, then Dr. Wheatley would have to step away long time. But these are private funds that the IC said he has not accounted for. But the man said he can account for his money. So allow him to account for his money. A little bit more from Sheets.
I have to deal with the MOU. I can't deal with it now in full. But the good thing about history, there was a time during the man at Phelps and Phillips commissioner.
Anyway, time is going. Perception, you see, is what the public believes. Perception is what the public believes based on the information the public has. That's why I would want the Prime Minister to clear it up and speak to the process. You cannot go around the process. Perception, a man must resign on perception. Optics, Yes, perception moves faster than the court. And I agree that perception can influence credibility. I agree with that. But a country cannot be governed by perception, man. Can a country be governed on perception? Governance requires due process. Innocent until proven guilty is the legal standard. And when you act on allegations, the Prime Minister cannot act on allegations. That's not good advice to a Prime Minister. Yes, I believe that the party will have to manage the perception. And I believe that the party does have a little work to do to assure the people of Jamaica that all the necessary steps are being taken to preserve the integrity of the government. But you can't act on allegations. And you can't try the case in the media. Trial by media and social media. Pelusi Perry is the judge. The case can't try down RJR and over nationwide. That's not where it is to be tried. Those are journalists with their opinions. We have to balance both. Courts decide guilt. You know, there are several views here. One of the view is what is called the legalist view. Legalism. And that view suggests that government should act only after the court's verdict. The legalist view is that resignation on allegation protects fairness for the individual. Then there is the view of the public's trust. Now, part of the problem with that is that Jamaica largely is a society where we don't trust each other. And then there is the middle view. And the middle view suggests that the minister steps aside temporarily and he returns only after he's cleared. And when that happens, it keeps both due process and public confidence. I suspect that the middle view is where many are leaning. But the country can learn a lesson here. And it is this, that this case highlights why Jamaica needs clear, published rules for what happens when IC recommends charges. The country must be told what is to happen when the Integrity Commission recommends charges. The Integrity Commission is not the government of Jamaica. It is an institution set up by statutes and is accountable to Parliament. Because if the standard is only wait for the court, or if the standard is resign uncharged, then we need to know. Clear up this matter for us. When the IC recommends charge, what is to happen? The country needs clarity on that. Here is the ministerial update from JIS as we move over to JPU. Because this story here is a big one about the deportee deal. This one here.
Hello and welcome to this special ministerial update with Information Minister Dr. Dana Morris Dixon here on the Jamaica Information Service. Dr. Dixon, thank you so much for joining us. Lots of discussion about the third-party national agreement with the U.S. Firstly, what do you say to Jamaicans now who are upset and concerned about why our government is entering into this agreement now with the U.S.?
I can understand the concern, especially given how the news broke. It broke with this 10,000 number, and I can see any Jamaican being alarmed when they hear a number like 10,000. So I understand the sentiments, but I say to every Jamaican that as a government, we've always been very transparent. We've always acted in the interest of Jamaica and Jamaicans. And this is just another example of that. And the Third Country Nationals Program is one that the US is negotiating with many countries currently, and it has finalized negotiations with many other countries, and it has started to be operational. So I do understand, and that's part of the reason we're having this conversation, is really to answer the questions. Our Deputy Prime Minister, Dr. Chan, would have answered a lot of questions. He had a press release out. He spoke for a long time in Parliament. And now I get to, add a bit more information from my information portfolio in terms of what's really being discussed at Cabinet so that Jamaicans understand what this is.
And even to talk about the what's being discussed, people would want to know as well, why has the government entered into this agreement?
All right, so this is an agreement that is, as I said, being negotiated by the US with many, many different partners. And there are other Caribbean countries that have already signed. And we are a key partner of the US. And we see the US as a key partner of ours. And the US approached the government of Jamaica as it approached other countries about this Third Country Nationals Program. So we are a transit point for individuals who would have recently crossed the border into the US and were being returned home. And so we're a transit point. And it's very small numbers, as would have been in the media, 25 at any one time. And it was really out of that request from the US. And then we entered into negotiations with the United States. And we're finally at the point where we have an MOU, but some of the operational details of it have not been finalized as yet.
Yeah. The Gleaner reported that a cabinet minister initially.
All right, let's move over to our friends at JPU and welcome very fine Jamaican woman, Natalie. I learned of Natalie's surname this week. I will not call her by that name. She is Natalie. Good evening to you, Natalie. How are you? No sound.
Hi, neighbor. Good evening to you.
How are you? There you go. Great. Natalie, how are you doing? Nice? Great. Had a great week?
Yes, fine. Well, it was very busy, but I managed to survive.
Yes.
So,
Wow.
good
Yeah,
evening to you and your audience. Thank you for having me again.
absolutely. Okay, Natalie, there's so much to cover tonight. I was just playing the big story broke by the Gleaner about these 10,000 deportees. You want to start on that? Tell us how you read it and clear up any misconceptions or misinformation that is out there. I'd love to hear how you are reading this story.
Well, neighbor, to be honest with you, when I first saw the story, like most people, I was very shocked. It had a shock value to it at first because I was wondering, how can this be? This is a government that I trust, okay, because I supported the Choose Jamaica movement, and I did so because I trust them. So that information about 10,000, and that's the number that jumped out at you, based on how the story was written and brought. 10,000 deportees. And I'm like, there better be a good reason for this and a good explanation. So I said, okay, there are two sides to every story. That was the Gleaner side that I was listening to. And when I heard Dr. Chang's side of it, I realized that this story was either not investigated properly or there was some misinformation, disinformation going on. So, as it turned out, we all know now that it's a matter of the United States, and I'm in the United States, so I can tell you that the United States, having had the border open for 2 whole years, created a very serious situation with illegal immigration in the country. Okay? I'm not for illegal immigration in that way. I did not come to the US illegally. So I understand the implication. I mean, even for Jamaica, I wouldn't want to see a bunch of people illegally crossing our border. I mean, that's dangerous, right? So, based on what we now know, my feeling of trusting the government, I don't feel betrayed or anything like that. I feel like the United States trying to deal with their immigration crisis, spoke with, members of our region, including Jamaica, and they're like, we need your help. When the border was open, neighbor, a lot of Jamaicans also crossed into the United States, right? And a lot of people from the region as well. Now, Dr. Chang already explained in short for your viewers that, it is going to be a situation where they would accept, 25 people or something, and those people would have the opportunity to seek asylum or something like that if it is that they cannot go back to their country. Because the truth of the matter is, if the United States doesn't do it in a humane way, let's say, for example, I cross the border illegally and I say, listen, I am scared for my life based on where I'm coming from. So I'm going to ask you to allow me to stay. And let's say that they deny me. It wouldn't be right for them to send me back to my country where I say my life is in danger. So
Right.
they're actually doing the humane thing by asking other countries to help. Now, we
Okay,
Jamaicans,
okay, Natalie, please don't move on from that because I think that is a very important point that I would love you to clarify. So what you are saying is that if 10 persons come here from other countries, those countries, these individuals may not feel safe going back to those countries.
right, that's what it's about. Yeah.
And therefore they could end up staying in Jamaica having applied for asylum.
If they apply for asylum, if they choose to, they don't must. But to
So
tell you the
it's
truth,
not that they will transit automatically when they land in Jamaica.
the information that we got from the Minister of National Security is that the 25 people would come, and if they choose to, they can either move on and go to where they need to be, or they can seek asylum. We don't really have an asylum set up in our country, We don't have that, like the United States and other countries, right? And this safe third country thing, it's not just our country regionally. The United States is a part of it, Canada is a part of it too. But the thing is, with the United States, they had a situation where their country was overrun for 2 years by illegal immigrants coming across the border, right? So, with that being said, neighbor, the thing about it is, my only concern about it at the time was, listen, these people who are coming in, as long as they don't pose a threat, a safety threat to our country, and as long as it doesn't cost our taxpayers anything, I'm okay with it. Okay? In America, we have millions of Jamaicans over here come illegal and legal. So I don't really have a problem if a non-violent individual is seeking to stay in Jamaica. It's not a problem for me. And as long as it doesn't cost our taxpayers anything, it's not a problem. I don't know why anybody would have a problem if the people are not criminals or, they don't pose a threat to our nation or it doesn't cost our taxpayers anything. I really don't see it as a big deal.
Okay, so why do you think that the story is taking such currency in Jamaica at this time, separate and apart from the politics of it? Is it that the government has not yet cleared up exactly what this is about? Or do you think it is the fact that it dropped like a bombshell? In other words, the leak came out and the cleaner framed it in a way that suggests that 10,000 people were coming. Do you think the psychological impact of it is what is causing the uproar?
Yes, and sometimes people don't understand how these things work. First of all, the government is in a negotiation with the United States, having accepted, that they're going to be helping the United States, right? Now, at what point you have to ask yourself, does the government of Jamaica go to the people and say, we're in an arrangement that we're trying to, finalize and settle to enter into this MOU? At what point do you do that? You don't do that midway, do you? You wait until you've completed everything so that you can come to the people with information. For example, where are the people going to stay? Are they going to have a halfway house? Are they going to have an apartment individually? Are they going to shack up together somewhere? What's it going to cost? All of these things must be worked out before the government come to the people, because you're coming to the people with no information. Because people still,
Right?
even though the Gleaner put out that article, people still have questions. Where them are going to go on these things, which has not been worked out yet. So I don't think the government withheld any information. I think the Gleaner interfered, quite frankly, in talks between Jamaica and its ally, the United States. And I think that's very inappropriate, if you ask me.
Quite so. Now, the posture of the opposition to this matter, Natalie, in the parliament on Tuesday was shocking and, quite frankly, very disappointing. The leader of the opposition in his press conference yesterday virtually said that we are partners with the United States. The United States, they are our friends, and he sounded as if he was, very much in agreement with this foreign policy of the government. But in Parliament on Tuesday, Natalie, the opposition at one point virtually were standing in protest, wanting to ask a lot of questions on this. You don't think that the opposition's posture on this would have caused some of the division in the country and kind of rile up the people? Because I have been saying, Natalie, that Jamaica is really suffering from what I call civic illiteracy. That a lot of people
Yeah.
in Jamaica are not reading for themselves, and the propaganda spread in Jamaica like hot bread.
Wildfire. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and then, do you not think that the opposition could have been more responsible in how they treated this matter in the parliament? Because they gave the impression that somehow it was a virtual crisis, when I don't see how it was.
Well, yes, I agree that between the Gleaner is the first that we have to look at as far as respecting diplomatic relations, respecting our allies. I mean, I cannot tell you, neighbor, how highly inappropriate this was. I don't think the Gleaner even went to the national security minister or
For
any
a, for,
member of
for a comment,
government.
for a comment, which is what you do in journalism.
Right. And
Yes.
when you're operating as a journalist, you have to be careful. And I don't even know if I should say this, but I'm gonna say it because I think I've said it before a while ago. When Dayton Campbell was implicated in this allegation of what he was accused of with underage girls, right?
Uh-huh.
I received a visit from the FBI.
You,
Okay.
Natalie, received a
Yes.
visit
Yes, I did, because Dayton
in the
Campbell.
United States.
Yes, I did. Because not because of anything that I did, it was because Dayton Campbell made me a part of a lawsuit that he had, right? He said that he was suing me too because he claimed that I was a part of accusing him, which everybody know that's not true. It was political victimization. But anyway, the FBI agents that came to my home that day, they told me that they were investigating and they wanted to ask me some questions. I said, sure, come on in. When they came in and we sat down at my dining table, they were asking me questions regarding, these allegations against Dayton Campbell. So I said, help me to understand, why do you come to me? Because I don't have nothing to hide. I have never been implicated with no FBI from a day in this country 25 years. But they said that because I was one of the people in the lawsuit that he filed. So I said, okay, no problem. So when they came in, I talked to them, and I'm not going to say every single thing that
Right.
I talked to them about. But what I'm trying to say is I reached out to a media house in Jamaica to tell that media house that you know this was happening, that the FBI was investigating Dayton Campbell for these allegations. Okay.
Yes.
And you know what the journalist told me? The journalist said, okay, I am going to do my checks and I'm going to check, with certain um members of government and whosoever, police and whosoever. And I'm going to find out if that's actually a thing. Because obviously, me calling and telling them something, them supposed to be responsible and do their own investigation.
Check into it. Yes.
Yes, so the person checked into it and he came back to me and he said, Nat, I checked into it and what you are saying is true. However, I was asked by a member of the security forces that I should not report this because it is an ongoing investigation.
Uh-huh.
So, was I mad at the journalist? No, I was not. Because the reason why I even said anything to him was because there was a release, right? That the investigation was closed in Jamaica. So with that, I thought, okay, the investigation is closed. I guess it's okay, he can report it. But this journalist told me, he said he checked with the police, top cop in Jamaica, and them say, you shouldn't report this because it is still under investigation. So I respected that. So what I'm saying now, neighbor, on the topic here that we're discussing, is that if Gleaner had for some reason received this information or whatever, their first um course of action should have been
To
to
check with
call
the
up the
minister.
national security minister and the foreign minister, or both of them, and
Yes.
them say them go to the embassy and get information. That's fine too, but why wouldn't you want to consult with the people who are running your country? It appears that the Gleaner have an agenda. Okay, so they should be sensitive as journalists to our foreign relations, to our national security. They should be sensitive to those things. And they should be asking themselves, neighbor, if the government didn't put out this information, why? Well,
Yes.
now we know that the government didn't put out the information because it's an ongoing conversation with our international ally. There's nothing wrong with that, right?
Not at all.
So yeah, the government should have been given the opportunity to speak with the US and conclude what they're concluding, and then say to the Jamaican people, this is what's happening. And that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So,
there's
so, so
so there's really nothing. I mean, first of, like I said, it's not going to cost us anything, and there's no concern about security or violent people and them something there. The minister made it clear that we're not accepting those kind of people, and we're going to do our vetting to make sure that we know who these folks are coming into the country, which is standard anyway, even for Jamaicans who are coming home. They have to check in and who are coming out of the country and stuff like that. So it's not a big deal. It's really not a big deal. It's just that the Gleaner broke the story and everybody like, oh, we didn't know this. You didn't know it because, there are ongoing conversations happening.
okay, thank you so much, Natalie, voicing your views on that matter. Let's go,
Sure.
Natalie, to the biggest story of this week so far. And although that story is a big one, there is no question that the story concerning Dr. Wheatley is the biggest story of the week so far. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, well, a whole heap of things happening on there, but you also have the parliament and people have video the members of parliament. A whole heap of big story, but we can talk about Wheatley, no problem.
Okay. Natalie, the views online that is predominant, coming out of Nationwide, coming out of JR, the church has gotten involved, Jamaican for Justice, is that Dr. Wheatley is to either be sacked or he is to step aside and until his name is cleared. I must tell you that I have a problem with that. My view is that the Integrity Commission has made a recommendation. Now, a recommendation is not a conviction. What the IC has done is that it has, in its report, recommended that Dr. Wheatley be charged. Dr. Wheatley says he's not guilty. Why should Dr. Wheatley resign on a recommendation from the IC? And what precedents would this set if the IC can recommend someone be charged and that person is immediately removed from the government? How do you see this story, Natalie?
Well, first of all, the IC is not a court of law, okay? I respect that Jamaica has tried, and we have come a long way to create bodies of integrity to police our parliament, to police our politicians. We needed that badly,
Yes.
okay? So I don't want anybody to get the idea that I don't want us to have an integrity body holding folks accountable. I would not want to have a Jamaica like that. The
Right?
truth of the matter, however, is politicians are human beings too. And politicians should be protected like all citizens under the law, right? They should be protected under due process and everything like that. Okay? So, the Integrity Commission, the way that they do things, neighbor, I think it poses a huge threat to people who put up themselves to serve our country in
Uh-huh.
terms of their reputation. I mean, the IC has become an organization that embarrasses people who may not even be charged for something.
Yes.
There's a problem with that. Okay? If somebody is not, anybody can come and point finger upon you, you know. Anybody
Well,
can come and point finger at you. Okay?
yes.
We're talking about an integrity commission that we saw went after the Prime Minister of Jamaica about his statutory declarations, and which is fine. I don't want a prime minister who is not vetted, before going on the ballot. However, this is an integrity commission that we saw made mistakes with numbers. Okay? An integrity commission that had an outside investigator or auditor come in and looked at the prime minister's stuff and they found nothing. And still, the Integrity Commission is still persistent in sending the prime minister to be investigated further after them and somebody from outside of Jamaica investigated the prime minister, and they're refusing to certify the prime minister without cause.
Yes.
So, personally speaking, I don't have a lot of confidence in the Integrity Commission when they are going to tell somebody that, they need to step down. No, I think people ought to wait and let people go through due process, or at the very least, be charged first. And then you can say, okay, you've been charged, you got legal work to do, go clear your name and come back. Dr. Wheatley has not been charged.
Well,
How
he
would
has
you
not
like
been
to be
charged.
at your job
Aha.
how would you like to be at your job? You have responsibilities, you have a household to feed or look after. How would you like to be at your job? And some report come and say they're recommending you to be fired, but you don't have no way to defend yourself. And the whole of your workplace come down upon you and say, yes, you're guilty. That's not right. I don't think
Yes.
that's right at all.
No, it's not
So,
right.
in
But
my
then,
opinion,
yes.
when you hear people like Cliff Hughes and Emily Shields, I wonder what journalism has become in Jamaica. You know,
Aha.
and if Andrew Holness goes ahead and follow what they're saying and dismiss Wheatley, he would be wrong for doing it because he just went through the same thing with the Integrity Commission.
Well,
The
there was a
same
there's a
exact
clip
thing.
on there's a
And
clip on media where Chops Media and I were having that same discussion last night, and it's out there. But the fact of the matter is that you are making a good point.
yeah, because if Andrew Holness go there now, go trouble the man. And Andrew Holness went through the same thing. He lawyered up, just like how Wheatley lawyer up, and him fighting. Okay, so
Because
how does
because
that make
because because
sense?
because he has taken the same position as Wheatley that he's not guilty.
Right. And you know
Or,
what?
or,
If
or that
Andrew
there are
Holness,
errors in the report.
there were errors in there, and even some of us YouTubers went through the paperwork and see the errors and pointed them out. The Integrity Commission has yet to acknowledge those errors. Okay, so you have to have legal defense to go through the whole business. Now, if Andrew Holness come now and tell Wheatley say him have to leave the cabinet, Andrew Holness would have to tell the Jamaican people that he would not have been qualified to go on the ballot if he is going to dismiss Wheatley based on an Integrity Commission report.
Clarify that, Natalie. What do you mean?
If Andrew Wheatley is not qualified to stay at this moment, then Andrew Holness should not have gone on the ballot 2025.
You mean the Prime Minister himself?
Yes. Was he charged for something, the Prime Minister?
No,
Is Wheatley charged for something?
no.
So why would the Prime Minister come trouble Wheatley at this time?
Well, that's hard hitting and hard to accept, Natalie. But you are making a fundamentally good point. Let me press you a little bit on this though. The whole matter of perception, Natalie.
Yes.
It is what the public believes, and you can't dismiss perception, especially in a society 300 years of colonialism.
Yes.
40 odd years of mismanagement and corruption. The Jamaican people have not yet regained trust neither in institutions nor in politicians, and there is much to support their ambivalence, their lack of trust. The fact too is that the court process in Jamaica moves so slow that it could take you another 5 years before this matter is even tried, and the government will have to face an election. It will have to face a local election. It will have to face a general election, and you have an opposition that is feeding a narrative of corruption.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that the matter of perception should be looked at, and Dr. Wheatley probably should, in the interest of preserving that which I just described, step away to allow the process to, go through the process and clear his name?
Well, perception is equally important as fairness in due
Yes,
process. Okay, so are we supposed to give the impression that Dr. Wheatley should sacrifice his fear, his let us know, sacrifice his he deserves to have due process, neighbor, and just
yes,
like you and I wouldn't want anybody to tell me to sacrifice my due process or to sacrifice being treated fairly. That's the term I'm looking for. To be
yes,
treated fairly under the law. Okay? You cannot tell me anything if I have not
It's
been
true
charged
that
for something. Me
no,
not care what the rumor say. I don't care what the grapevine say. I don't care what nobody wants say. I have
You
not
don't
been
care what Cliff
charged.
Hughes say and Emily
I
Cooks. But
don't
when the
care what
church,
Emily Shields, Glean, or Cliff user nobody want to say. The man hasn't been charged of anything. What kind of country? I mean, I understand the history that you just described, and it's true that, institutionally, we've come a long way and stuff like that. Okay? But if there's evidence or suspicion enough to charge the man, charge the man. And once he's charged, then you have a different conversation now. But how are you going to tell somebody
Natalie, charge is not guilt either, Charge only
it
mean that there is evidence to be placed before the court.
that is true, and I'm actually being very conservative by
Yes.
saying that the prime minister can take action once the man is charged. But
Okay.
before he is, I find it very and highly inappropriate for you to tell a man or a woman to step somewhere if they have not been
Even
charged.
be charged.
And if
Correct.
Andrew Holness did have follow, well, during leading up to the general election, we did not hear anybody in media saying that the prime minister was not qualified to go on the ballot. I don't know if you
Yes.
heard that, but I didn't hear that.
Well, no, I never heard that at all.
The only person I heard say that was Mark Golding.
Well, he well, yes,
So, so tell me now, if the media and the press were not telling the prime minister, the prime minister, the integrity commission come with a report and then don't certify you cannot go on the ballot, then why should we be telling Andrew Wheatley now with only a report that he must go? Why? Is that fair?
not fair at all, and that's my
No.
view. I put before you, Natalie, three philosophical positions in play here. And the first one is the legalist view, which says that the government should act only after the court's verdict. And therefore, a resignation or a removal of Dr. Wheatley at this point would not be supported by those who hold this view. The second view is the whole matter of the public's trust. And that is where Dr. Wheatley is either removed or offers his resignation, and he preserves the integrity while the case runs. And politics, a lot of politics is also perception. And then
Yeah.
the third view is the middle view, where the minister steps aside temporarily and returns if he is cleared. When you look at this, the politics of it, Natalie, let's be real here about the politics of it, because that is where you also have to look. Do you think that probably it is better to err and have Dr. Wheatley, just remove himself and allow his name to be cleared?
No, I do not believe that we should create an environment in Jamaica where this body called the Integrity Commission, based on a report, and that's just there are two sides to a story, right?
Yes.
Based on a one-sided report, you don't give people a chance to defend themselves or to, defend their name, whatever. You come with a one-sided report. And you see, when you do things like these are if this is the consequence of serving your country, considering you're not guilty of anything, okay? Then people would be probably thinking twice whether they should enter into politics in Jamaica. We have a
Yes.
justice system and we have due process, neighbor, and I don't think it's right. First of all, you see this thing where the Integrity Commission come table things from people. I don't like it. And you know why I don't like it? Because I have seen it where not all the time every report come back with a charge of anybody. So if it is that somebody is not charged, how are they going to regain their name? How are they going to clear up all of the defamatory things out there on them? I feel like if the Integrity Commission does an investigation and they feel like somebody should be charged for something, they should go ahead and refer it to the prosecutor's office. And at that time, if the prosecutors are going to come up with a charge, then it can be made public that Minister so and so is going to be charged or has been charged. But
Fantastic.
I don't think that before you even get to that stage, you should be coming in the parliament, tabling things against people to potentially damage people's reputation. You know this, neighbor, that many a times people are not even charged.
Yes.
Many a
Yes.
times, the Integrity Commission, I remember the situation with Peter Bunting. I mean, Wheatley's situation is not with any public funds. Bunting's situation was about him being security minister and offering firearm license to people of a certain character, right?
Yes.
And Bunting took on the Integrity Commission in the most fierce manner. He got his legal defense. He went on all the news network, including nationwide, and him gonna go talk and him make him case to everybody. You even had PNP members at the PNP headquarters staging protests against Peter Bunting, saying that him need to go. What did Mark Golding say? He said he was standing by Peter Bunting. So if
Uh-huh.
Andrew Holness takes any press or takes any pressure from the opposition, when the opposition was in a situation where they were asked by civil society, members of the PNP, asked by everybody that Bunting must go, they did not let Bunting go. They said they stand by Bunting, right? So if Andrew Holness take any pressure from the PNP and trouble the man before he is charged, that would be wrong. Okay, and I think that people like
And
Emily Shields,
you would not support the prime minister for doing that.
absolutely not. When Wheatley is charged, then I can say you are a distraction because you have to go and deal with, the legal aspect of it. But until he's charged, I think he should stay and continue doing his job.
You have made that very clear. The
Yes,
other thing,
absolutely, 100%. Yeah, neighbor, I know what it feels like to be defamed.
oh,
Okay? So I am not gonna let because the Integrity Commission come with a report. That is not an indictment on people whether they're people's guilt. That's I mean they're not the court of law. And
yeah,
according to the court of law and judge and jury and everybody, they say you're innocent until you're proven guilty. But a charge, as you said, is not guilt. However, politically, once a person is charged, they should not be around. Okay. And then this thing now where, because I got to say it, this thing now where Isaac Buchanan, who already did his 10 year in prison, so me not really hold it against him because him did him 10 years in prison for drug trafficking, twice convicted, deported, and all of them something there. You understand? So if the PMP can be so
sorry. Could
forgiving,
you provide us with a little bit more? Well, you because that has been out. I think it's public knowledge that that he has, but he served his time. Eh? So,
Isaac Buchanan was twice convicted, once in Jamaica when he was younger for cocaine trafficking. Second time, trafficking cocaine to the United States. Caught, did 10 years in a federal prison, deported to Jamaica. Okay, so he did his time, and I'm okay with that. However, when a political party who wants to exercise moral authority is going to take Isaac Buchanan and put him in the parliament, what happens to that political party is that they barely have any moral ground to stand on. Okay? The PNP is very forgiving, if you ask me, when it comes to stuff like that. Vibes Cartel, fresh out of prison for homicide, who got let go on a
yes,
technicality,
was at their conference.
graced the PNP conference stage, and I was told by members of the opposition that they were not happy about it because they were not told in advance that it would happen and therefore giving them a chance to be present or not. So not everybody was comfortable with it. I am saying all of that to say the PNP has been very generous, and I didn't mention Bujo. Bujo, who did his 10 years for cocaine too, was at the PNP's conference at one point in time.
Uh
So the
huh.
PNP is a very forgiving party when time it come on to people, who do things like those. People who has been charged, prosecuted, um, sentenced, done their time. They're so forgiving to those people. Andrew Wheatley has not been charged, prosecuted, or anything. So what the excitement for?
Well, Well, Natalie, we want to wrap this up. But let me suggest that we are going to have to be very careful of the precedents that we set here, because if the IC report becomes the means by which cabinet ministers are removed, then all the IC need to do is to present reports, and cabinet ministers will have to be removed. The lessons to be learned, though, Natalie, from this is I really think we need to be clear. The country needs to be clear what happens when the Integrity Commission presents a report and recommends that charges be laid. What is to happen? Because I don't think the country understands what happens from here.
Neighbor, I do not believe that the Integrity Commission should have any communication with our parliament. I
Sorry.
think the Integrity Commission should have communication with the prosecutor's office. Okay? Because you create a situation where everything becomes too politicized, and that is what we're seeing. That's what we've
Yes.
seen over the many years, is that the whole thing become too politicized. So
Yes.
therefore, when the Integrity Commission's duty is to investigate, don't it?
Yes.
And make sure that the law is being upheld by those we entrust with to represent us, the parliamentarians. So we don't need to go put nothing on a table in a parliament. What we need to do is have the Integrity Commission, if they have any investigation that they feel a charges should be laid or prosecution, they should come, because them not have the power to prosecute nobody.
No,
They not have the power to
it's
charge
the-
anybody.
Yeah.
The parliament now have the power to charge or prosecute anybody. So why is the Integrity Commission in communication with the parliament? No, they're supposed to be in communication with the prosecutor. That's it. Because only the prosecutor can lay charges and prosecute people.
Yes, you're making a very good point there, Natalie, that the politics is kind of what has muddied the water here a bit.
And it's because of what? And it's because of the way that the IC does things that is causing the politicization of it. You remember, leading up to the election, the only thing that the PNP campaigned on was what? Them I get investigate. 8 of them over the side, they get investigate. That's all they campaigned on. So take that crap from out of the parliament and go deal with the prosecutor. Not once did the IC come out and say to the PNP, it is wrong. You cannot be campaigning on any report until it is tabled. They never said that.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic talking with you, Natalie. Really, really, really riveting conversations here with Natalie from JPU. And we're just getting started. Natalie, Parliament this week, once again, we saw Miss Burchell was at the center of attraction, using her phone to record the proceedings. It is alleged that she went live in the parliament.
Mm-hmm.
Natalie, the Prime Minister says that Jamaica, he is aspiring that we should become like Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to become Singapore when our parliament is in this state, Natalie? Natalie, parliament is supposed to reflect the country, the nation. In Singapore, they used to say that the Singapore parliament was boring because when Lee Kuan Yew, the prime minister, you saw our prime minister having to be telling Dayton Campbell that he's a bully.
And he is.
Yeah, and he is. But many are saying that was not prime ministerial from the prime minister. But every man sometimes have to be drawn to that point.
Well, what did Dayton Campbell say to the prime minister to cause that?
Well, according to Mark Golding, and I have the clip here, I think I could play that. But before I get to that, the Miss Burchell,
Last issue I wanted to address today
here.
relates to the squabble that took place during the proceedings of Parliament yesterday, and which have been covered by at least one media house, and I believe in social media, alleging that or saying that the Prime Minister was calling a member on our side a bully and so on. Now, for those of us who are in Parliament and who witnessed this, it's quite clear that the squabble began when the Prime Minister told that member to shut up. When the member responded and said, "What did you say?" He repeated it and told him to shut up. This was in the context of the member speaking to the question of Hansard being asked to verify what had been said previously in the same proceedings, which were the subject of a dispute. It is those two unparliamentary statements by the Prime Minister which led to that squabble and ultimately resulted in him calling the other member a bully, etc. And that is how, unfortunately, the reporting of it has not been balanced or accurate. And I really think that it was unseemly for the Prime Minister of the country to descend into a squabble of that nature, which he really initiated by calling the member, telling the member twice to shut up. And the Prime Minister ought to apologize to the Parliament for having effectively kicked off the series of engagements between the two of them, which led to a protracted and unseemly squabble in Parliament yesterday, ultimately resulting in the Speaker having to suspend the sitting for a period of time to allow tempers to cool. And I'm saying that this morning because I don't think it's fair or balanced the way in which it's been covered, and the Prime Minister ought to do the right thing and apart.
Okay, so there you have it. The Prime Minister told Dayton to shut up, and Dayton said what you said, and the Prime Minister said, "Shut up."
Neighbor, the
Yes.
truth of the matter is, Prime Minister Andrew Holness does not have a reputation of being rude.
No.
Dayton Campbell has had a reputation of being disgustingly rude for as long as he's been in politics. Okay? Dayton Campbell and the Rise United movement faction, they have called Prime Minister Andrew Holness names from thief to corrupt, all sort of thing over the years. And he has never disrespected them. Okay? So if the Prime Minister even, I mean, just have to tell you the truth, if the Prime Minister even did tell them the disruptors, because that's all they're doing these days is being disruptive in the Parliament. And if they're being disrupted and are told to shut up, then so what? What's the big deal?
Well,
We, the people who are looking at the Parliament, we want a peaceful proceeding. But every day that the PNP comes in there, the words that I want to use to describe them, I will not use them here because they're not very nice adjectives, okay? But this opposition is nothing but disrespectful, disruptive, and I'm very ashamed because we know that it's not just Jamaicans watching our Parliament. And that's what's so embarrassing about it. Okay? Now, let me just tell you something, neighbor.
yes.
And this is the elephant in the room that a lot of people probably don't notice or don't want to talk about. The PNP, and especially the risers, they have a disdain for the relationship between the Prime Minister and his wife. Andrew Holness,
Disdain for.
they have a disdain for the Prime Minister and his wife. Many of them have never been exposed to a relationship where there's a gentleman and a wife who is, active. She's charting her own course. She's a professional. She's busy. And the husband is okay with that. And they walk side by side. Andrew Holness and Juliet Holness walk side by side. If you look at the members of the opposition, okay, their wives are either walking behind them or if they're females, the one when named Birchell, she comes say she never have a man, never bring home a man to our family them yet. So you know what kind of dynamic that is. I don't need to say it, okay? And for them to come there, Dayton Campbell him, me no know, 1 minute you see him with a woman and another minute you hear him mix up on them something there. So them not really have the relationship dynamic there with nobody that they're with. You understand? Because them either hiding or somebody them spouse or girlfriend or people, whatever, or walk behind them, but never beside them. And in the public as two respectable people together in a union. Okay? So to me, they're very jealous of that. Me, on the other hand, when I see power couples like those, me like it. Okay? It says something about a man who can be so confident of a man that him can walk with and there with and spar with a woman of Juliet Holness's caliber. You
Uh-huh.
understand? I know every man can do that in a neighbor. Make we talk. I know every
Well,
man can walk beside a woman like Juliet Holness, a woman like Lisa Hanna, a woman like even me, right? Because I
oh,
am a woman where me not me, neighbor. I am an independent woman. I respect men, and men should be men. Me not honor respect for a man where would I have a problem being with a woman who is independent. She respects him, but she's independent and she does her thing, and she can take advice from him, and likewise he can take advice from her too. Nothing wrong with that. Is a is
uh-huh.
a is a power couple. You understand? And a man who will have a problem with that, him is not much of a man to me. And a woman who would feel like say she cannot be an independent woman. She cannot be a woman charting her own course, walking beside her man. Me not really have respect for them, that woman then either. You
Uh-huh.
understand what I'm saying? So if you look at what is happening, it's not just a personal attack. Because to me, there's been this personal attack coming from the opposition toward the Speaker of the House. And when them ready, them turn upon the Prime Minister. They resent them for being this power couple in the House of Parliament. They
Uh-huh.
do. So when you see them behave that kind of way in there, they're just acting out. They're acting out like little kids. It's not just that they have a problem with this two Jamaican man and woman together, charting their own course, doing their own thing, and them standing with each other, respect one another, and them something there. It's not that them have a problem with just that, but they're frustrated in opposition for 3 terms. And like I said on my channel, they don't see themselves removing the prime minister electorally. They don't see that happening because this prime minister has grown in his job. If you see him on the ground and you see him interacting with the Jamaican people have grown on him, or he's
Yes.
grown on them.
So Natalie, Miss Burchell's behavior once again
Yes.
is coming in for some attention. And I reference our road to Singapore earlier because I believe, Natalie, that it really has to start with Parliament. And if this is how we are going to conduct the country's business, I don't see how that aspiration is going to be realized at all. Do you think that the speaker is, and I did a little bit of research and I found out that maybe one of the weakness is the marshal in the Parliament, that the speaker is not getting any support from the marshal. The speaker is the brain, the marshal is the spine. When the speaker gives certain advice or makes certain rulings, the marshal is weak.
I don't know who is responsible for dismissing the marshal or calling the marshal on his ineffectiveness. But I think that Marshall is very ineffective. And I can't really blame him. You know why I can't blame him? Because he's been there for a while and he's probably never had to deal with anything like this before.
Yes.
This is foreign to him. So he probably feels uncomfortable having to play that role now because he's never had to play that role. And we know that in the parliament and the opposition side, it's a bunch of hooligans. And he's probably never had to deal with a set of hooligans before. But at the same time, we have to have a marshal in the parliament to do the job of controlling the house. Okay? So if he cannot stand up to the job, then it's time for him to go. That's the first thing. The second thing is neighbor. Remember, I came here and I told you before when it was Angela Brownberg acting out and disrupting the parliamentary proceeding. I told you that I blame the government. Remember?
Yes, you did.
Remember, I said that if they don't activate discipline against Angela Brownberg, this is going to get worse. Remember, I told you that?
You told me that.
So Angela Brownberg was able to get away with it, and she was able to come back the next day. And Juliet Holness read this speech, and it was back to regular programming. You cannot do that with people like those. So you
Uh-huh.
see, Burchell has escalated because you see that the House Speaker is not going to do anything. When Nikisha Burchell did what she did, she should have been kicked out of the Parliament.
You mean you
And
mean
it's
you
it
mean you mean when she was filming the proceedings and going
all of
online?
that. Absolutely. And the member who got up from the government side and advised the speaker to name Nikisha Burchell, why didn't he move a motion for her to be kicked out of the Parliament?
I think the House leader would have to do that after the speaker named
One
her.
of them should have moved a motion for it to happen. And the government side, they are behaving as if they have no spine, and they're also causing a problem for we the people.
Natalie, you
What?
you are really saying you're really saying that the government is
Absolutely.
behaving side is
When it
behaving.
comes on to controlling the proceedings with the standing order, the government is weak. I've said that to you before, and I'm saying it again because it played out again. Nikisha Burchell should have been dismissed from the parliament yesterday. She should have been. I know people who was at Parliament Wednesday gone, who said that they walked out. They came there to watch the parliamentary proceeding, and when they saw what was happening, they walked out.
But I
So is
don't
the
understand how
government,
is Miss Burchell allowed to get away with such an egregious breach of the House rules. It looks really bad from just
they're
watching it.
nasty, they're disgusting, neighbor. They're nasty and disgusting. And like I said, the government has to do something. They cannot continue to deprive us. You think it's a nice thing for you to go to parliament to go sit down and listen to what's going, and you have to leave because of behavioral issues?
Yeah.
The government has a duty. They have a duty to uphold the standards of the parliament. And when you look over in Bahamas and you look at Antigua and you see how those speakers are sticking by the books. You see, Diane Jackson Miller, she come out with I talk about, oh, the speaker is so rigid. Are you serious? The speaker is not rigid. Because if the speaker was rigid, Angela Brownberg would have been suspended for an extended time. Burchell would have been kicked out. The speaker not rigid. The speaker needs to be more rigid. And when Dion Jackson Miller them come a campaign and promote rigidity in the parliament, what they're doing is they're promoting disorder. That's what they're doing.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Now, about Singapore, let me just say this real quick.
Yes.
I have seen the potential in Jamaica becoming the next Singapore for quite a few years now. And when the Prime Minister says that he aspires to make Jamaica the next Singapore, I think absolutely we have the ability to do it. Okay? And I cannot wait to see the rollout of NARA. I cannot wait to see all the projects, the road projects, the 55 bridges that will connect Jamaica, and all the things that are supposed to happen under NARA. I cannot wait to see it. And that's one of the good things, when we talk about, national development.
Yes.
The name of this program that we're doing, Neighbor, is called Developing Jamaica. So when it comes on to development, we have to make sure that we mention the different developmental projects that are happening across the country. And it's happening. The last time I was in Jamaica, in March, I think. Yeah, in March, driving through Montego Bay and all the different areas, and you see all the construction going on and stuff like that. Jamaica is developing, and I cannot wait to see what will happen in the next 5 years.
Jamaica, Natalie, this week hosted a very successful biennial diaspora conference. How you didn't manage to come down?
Well, I can't come down because I've got quite a bit going on in my personal life. I've got my daughter who is working 2 jobs. She just started driving. She is going through the process of starting college. And, I've got a lot on my plate. So I will be traveling soon again. But right now, at this time, I have to stay put.
Okay. The conference was very successful, Natalie, and
Yeah.
there's a number of reasons why it was successful. But the Prime Minister went there and made quite a bit of news when he...
My dear friend, Mr. Mark Golding.
When he said this.
Mark, how could I forget you? It was not always the case at these events that the leader of the opposition was invited to speak. But as this event evolved into more of a national event rather than a government-sponsored event, it became the protocol that the leader of the opposition, which is a constitutional position, quite a unique thing in constitutional innovations, to have the office of the leader of the opposition written into the Constitution. So, Mark, we can never forget you. And we're always happy to have you here as leader of the opposition.
Very funny, Natalie. But my understanding is that laugh of the Prime Minister at the end is not going down too well in the PNP. Do you think the Prime Minister went a little too far?
Absolutely not. Why do I say that? At this biannual conference, neighbor, it happens every 2 years. I will be at the next one. I think I'll be able to. I can't wait to come. But I was told that Mark Golding went to the conference and told the conference that people still didn't have roofs after the hurricane. That was to insult the government. That was to embarrass the government. That was because Mark Golding is bitter because he lost the election and because he wanted to somehow plot the diaspora against the government of Jamaica. We saw him do it leading up to the election, touring the diaspora. I've never seen anything like this in my entire life, where a member of the opposition or a leader of the opposition, in seeking election victory and power, who goes on foreign soil to campaign, and in doing so, speaking ill of the government that they're facing off with in the election. I've never seen it before. I've never seen a leader of an opposition go abroad and campaign against their country. I've never seen that.
Yes.
So Mark Golding has done this before, where he goes to the diaspora and tells the diaspora, well, the country is not running good, and your government is corrupt, and your government is thief, and your government is that. But he's not telling the diaspora that him and his business partner, Peter Bunting, are making billions of dollars on real estate as we speak in Jamaica because the country is running good. So the Prime Minister is not a man to just get up and insult people. And that laugh and
Yes.
that mention of, we're glad to have you here as opposition leader, that was meant to be an insult to Mark Golding, and it was deserved. The people them know. So we had a
You think the
hurricane.
Prime Minister intended to insult Golding?
Of course, yes. Why not? You're gonna come to the conference and come try to insult the government, come talk about say people still don't have no roof and them something there. What are you trying to do? What exactly did you think Mark Golding was doing? He was trying to insult the Prime Minister and insult the government. So why not insult him back?
Uh-huh. Well, um,
That's what that was supposed to do. Okay? No. Me glad say the diaspora never come down a Jamaica come here say the hurricane money thief. Okay? Me glad for that. Because that would have give Mark Golding a whole heap for talk in front of the diaspora.
yes. All right, we're running out of time.
Okay.
The last time you were here, Natalie, you recommended that the government employs a press officer to help them with their communications.
Mm-hmm.
My sources are telling me that that matter is being actively considered by the party, and we should hear an announcement on that very soon. As a matter of fact, I got a call today that that is happening, and the government is going to ramp up their communications with a separate department that will be meeting, giving press conferences 3 times per week. That's what I'm told.
Oh, that's I haven't heard that. I'm glad you heard it. So thank you for the information. But that's good. That's excellent.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
So what happened this week, neighbor? I don't know if you see it that way, yeah, but me I will tell you.
Yes.
This week, what you saw happen in Jamaica was a political hit job on members of the government. There was a
What
hit
you mean
job
by that?
on.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by
I'm
that?
gonna tell you a
Well, oh,
political hit job by the media, particularly the Gleaner, on members of
orchestrated.
government. The first hit job was done on Dr. Chang about the 10,000 deportees who are come to Jamaica. Me don't know how that make any logical sense. But anyway, that was the first one. And that
Yes.
story ran for a good 8 to 10 hours before the government said anything.
Wow.
Okay? So by the time the
In other
government
words,
come
they
talk,
allow a narrative to take root in the society without putting any truth out there. That's not good at all.
and that is why the government will be doing a good thing to have a press secretary out there. So in just 1 week, that story came out Tuesday evening, I think, and the government responded Wednesday morning, somewhere
No,
around
no,
10
they
o'clock.
put out a press conference the evening.
They put out a
A
press
press
release the
release.
evening. They put out a
Yes,
press release, yes, but it was hours. It was many hours after the Gleaner reported it. Okay.
correct.
And then after that, no, they came for Miss Audrey Marks. And they said that Audrey Marks was the one who went and negotiated that 10,000 deportees we can take down here. When no go so, the woman was talking about the workforce and the lack of uh experts in the workforce, and saying that since Jamaican workers them come America sometime, only can send some workers come down here and we can do like an exchange program kind of thing. Okay? But the story that was told was that she was the one who proposed that Jamaica can take 10,000 deportees. Big lie. Okay.
Mm.
There was another one. And who else them hit? Help me out here, no neighbor. Who else them lick?
Well, then you had the weekly matter coming out.
Wheatley, yes, Wheatley. And then the Wheatley matter came. So a big thing going this week.
Yes.
Okay. So
In
I'm
other
saying
words,
all of this.
as we close out the week, the
Yes.
government seems to be on the back foot.
Well, to be honest with you, yes, the government has been on the back foot. But at the same time, because we live in a time now where you have people out here like me, and I've said a few things about it on my channel. You have you and other people out here. Some of those stories kind of died on arrival. For example, the one with member of parliament Arja Marks, that didn't last very long. Okay, but what I am saying is, if the government had a press secretary, the outcome would have been much different. And when they finally get a press secretary, you will see the difference. Okay? So it's been an interesting week. Where the parliament is concerned, I would suggest that the House Speaker and the government, they're the ones that are going to have to preserve the dignity of our parliament. They're the ones that's going to have to uphold the standards of our parliament. They cannot continue allowing the PNP or the risers them to turn our parliament in a bend down market and them something there. Jamaica is a highly respected country. Jamaica is the leader of the Caribbean. And especially since we've had so many great things happening where we've lowered our crime, we've shown that we can hold our own over the past
Yes.
few years. Lowering our crime, lowering our debt, making our country a place that is ripe for investment. Real estate is booming in Jamaica and all the things. More people are coming to Jamaica to live. So Jamaica has proved itself over the last 9 years that we can hold the one, right? And that we can be a stable democracy. Unlike some countries, like where Mark Golding people them come from and he had his citizenship in the UK, they've been so unstable. Another thing too, while I'm talking about UK, I don't know if you heard where he talk about the diaspora must help run Jamaica.
Yes, I heard that.
No, my question is, can he stay in Jamaica and help run England? No. What does he mean the diaspora should help run Jamaica? Jamaica no lack of people running it. And how we run Jamaica? We run Jamaica by the ballot. We elect people to run our country. So we can come home and vote, or we can move back home and participate in our democracy. But there's no way that we should expect the government of Jamaica that the people put there to move over and make diaspora come run country. It's not so it work in Jamaica. This is not the time of colonization by England where them come run it. No, so we do it. We run election and voting who we want to run our country.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to open the lines, Natalie, in the few minutes we have left.
Sure.
I don't know if you have any questions on your end. On my end, if you want to come up at this time to ask any questions, to have a little talk with Natalie, we can take 2 persons, and you have to be very brief. So moderators, let's see who is on. Do you have any questions over on your end, dear Natalie?
I'm reading. Guys, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat, and I'll be reading.
We're not frightened for persons living abroad. All right, so let me see who is coming up here. Well, I have Sheffrin. Okay. In my chat, okay. I have Ariel 569. Good evening to you, sir. Hello.
Good evening, my brother. How you doing?
Hi, we have Natalie with us.
Yeah, that's what I realized.
Yes.
That's how you do.
Hi, how are you?
I can't get to talk to her so long time because I like our program and I see our program all the while, but never really get the opportunity to say anything. But I can't deal with her face to face now,
Go ahead.
My child, you're doing a wonderful work. You continue to do it. Don't make nobody make Jamaica sniff the way back to these people. Say what
Thank
you have
you.
to say. And may I hope that the next election you can run for my seat.
I wish I just see it there.
Where is that?
Now, me need my MP for change. Seriously. Juliet Cuthbert.
Oh. Wow.
Wow.
When me see so seriously, I don't know, I don't come on platform too often reason because these people cannot reason.
He was removed. Well, I don't know. He got disconnected or something like that. I don't know what happened to him there, but he got disconnected. Okay. Anything from your end there, Nuts?
Let's see. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. I hope the government take the advice from hypocrite Cliff today that they are that they are poorer and community. Oh gosh, I think somebody's having some typo here. Retype your question, and guys, try to leave the comment section for people who want to ask questions, so I'm not constantly having to move through the comments. Just question time now. Go ahead, neighbor. Do you have anything on your end?
Well, I'm checking. I'm checking. Okay. Latoya Roberts. Good night. Hello, Roberts. No, not there. Okay. I'm not sure. Shafreen, do you have any? Because I don't have the YouTube screen up here. Anything on YouTube there for you? For me, Shafreen? Hello? Not hearing from Shafreen. Huh?
Nothing on YouTube.
Okay, let me just read a comment here. Somebody said, does the statutory role of the IC make it difficult for the government to openly criticize their action? That's a bit confusing. Does the statutory role of the IC makes it difficult for the government to openly criticize their action? Yes, I guess you could say that. I mean, the Prime Minister recently said to somebody, I try not to talk about the Integrity Commission. Excuse me, because really and truly, if you go talk about them, it'll look like, say, you're anti-integrity and them something there, right? The way that the Integrity Commission is behaving in our country and is functioning is as if they're higher than the Supreme Court. I don't like that.
Yes. Yes.
I don't think that's appropriate at all, because they're not a court of law. They're supposed to right, they're supposed to be able to do their investigations, and where there's no charge, then we don't want to hear nothing from them. But if there's a charge, then yes, we want to hear from them. And we would much rather hear from the prosecutor of the country. Not so?
Absolutely.
Yes, because if there's no charge, what you're doing is you're trying to ruin people's reputation where there's no charge.
All right.
Because all you're going to have is innuendos and things like that. Go ahead, neighbor.
Astute is on my end. Good evening to you, Astute.
Good evening, neighbor. Blessings and honor.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Natalie's here.
Oh, good evening, Natalie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. I always enjoy watching you, talk on important, pressing topics, politically speaking. And I heard earlier you said they have a lot on your plate. I wish you Godspeed and all the best with that.
Thank you.
I'm here. Thanks. You're welcome. Yes, neighbor. What's up? How's everything going?
Questions for Natalie. So that's what we're doing.
Okay, questions for Natalie. Neighbor, I think you touched on everything. Everything that is in which we spoke about. We spoke about the government, the sensationalist headline by the Gleaner, and she responded to that. We spoke about the TCNs. We spoke about Andrew Wheatley. The only thing I would say is something outside of that, and you asked her again, which was Singapore. So I have nothing more to say. It would have been just a belaboring of the points. But I want to just say to Natalie, thank you for always giving your contribution and your little bit to nation building. Really appreciate you.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Astute, you can hang on. You can hang on there.
I have a question, neighbor.
Yes.
Somebody in my chat says, what about the visa revocation on persons in relation to the deportation issues? So I heard about that. I think I heard about it from the Gleaner.
Yes, there's a story on Nationwide to that end too. I wonder if I could find it.
Yeah, that there were some kind of threat about visa revocation.
Uh-huh.
The truth of the matter, neighbor, is this. Jamaica is really a small country compared to the United States, and I think we're the third largest English speaking in the region, right? And
Right.
Jamaica is not a country that is looking any war with anybody. We're not looking to have any conflict with anybody. We just want to develop our country and mind our business and move freely. That's all we ever want in our community, right? Now, everybody in the world have been very generous to Jamaica. When you look at the response during the time of the hurricane, I personally never know say as such Jamaica is well loved. Me know Jamaica popular, but me never know say people from the African continent, every continent, everybody come just to help Jamaica so. And Jamaica never stretch out their hand and beg nobody nothing, right? So when me see that now, me start to have a different perspective. And I start to really look at our country in a new light. Okay? Now, if we are allies with the United States or anybody for that matter in our region, and we have this problem of immigration and things like that, and the United States, even though our politics kind of unstable over here so right now, and that's okay. But that's not Jamaica business, okay? Now the United States come to Jamaica and say, listen, we have a problem and we're asking you to help us. If the PNP was there, neighbor, what do you think the PNP would have do? Come on, go and talk what I do today, no? Him say if him was there, can play it. Do you have it? The recording?
What is that?
Where Mark Golding said that if I did him and the Prime Minister and the US asked him to help
Yes,
out.
let me see if I can cover the visa story first, and then I get to that.
The Trump
Okay.
administration has for several months been lobbying the Holness administration to join at least 23 other countries across the globe under the Third Country National Agreement. Sources close to the U.S. government tell a news center that Washington was not amused by what it perceived to be the tardiness of the Jamaican government in agreeing to a deal. Those sources say that's when the U.S. pulled the visa revocation card as a means of hastening the steps of the Jamaican government. It's a matter our news center put squarely to Minister of National Security and Peace, Dr. Horace Chang, in a telephone call on Thursday afternoon. Dr. Chang downplayed the claim, saying there was never any attempt by Washington to force the hand of the Holness administration. But nationwide news sources say the move by the U.S. in January this year to include Jamaicans on a list of 75 nationalities for whom the processing of immigrant visas had been put on indefinite pause was a subtle but calculated move by Washington to pressure the Holness administration to sign up to the TCN deal. Four sources say a Jamaican government official, whom they declined to name, had raised the possibility of a major work exchange program between Kingston and Washington to address labor shortages in some industries in Jamaica, but that proposal was reportedly not endorsed by Dr. Chang. It's understood that the issue is different and distinct from the negotiations around the Memorandum of Understanding concerning third country nationals. Jamaica joins Belize, Costa Rica, Panama, Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, St. Kitts and Nevis, Barbados, St. Lucia, Guyana, Grenada, and Paraguay as countries which have agreed to third country national agreements with the United States.
All right, so there you have it. Here is Mark Golding. Here's Mark Golding.
Are a close ally of ours and have been very helpful to us in many ways, including after Hurricane Melissa. And if they have a serious problem and they're asking for our assistance, I wouldn't likely ignore that or reject that.
All right, there you have it. Let's hear him again.
It is a fact that the US are a close ally of ours and have been very helpful to us in many ways, including after Hurricane Melissa. And if they have a serious problem and they're asking for our assistance, I wouldn't likely ignore that or reject that.
There you go.
So no matter what people are say, it sounds to me based on that report, it sounds to me like Jamaica was not too enthusiastic about getting involved in being a third country, third safe country. Or it could just be that Jamaica having to deal with our hurricane aftermath was just busy. Okay, that could be it too. But if we should go by the news report, it sounds to me like the government and the national security minister did what was in the interest of the Jamaican people.
Correct.
Can't argue with
Absolutely. Can't argue with that at all. Cannot argue with that. War against misinformation. You're the final one. Hi. Hello. Oh, boy, I tell you. Are you on, sir? No, I don't think he is.
Neighbor,
Okay.
neighbor, if it did go the other way, let us say that the government was defiant and said, boy, we not do this and them something there. You see, when time the people them start lose them feet, you know the whole of them that come down upon the government door.
Well, you damn if you do, damn if you don't. I feel, Natalie, that we elect a government, and I believe that the government is acting in the best interest of the nation.
Absolutely.
I don't need to question the government's decisions. I believe that the government appoints ministers, they appoint technical people, they know what they're doing. I don't know. And I believe that this government led by Andrew Holness is acting in Jamaica's best interest. And
I trust them.
Yes, and I don't think that
I
they're
trust
going to
them.
do anything that is going to be injurious to the Jamaican people. And to that regard, I don't want to question their decisions at all. They know more than I do. I can only comment on it, and based on what I've seen so far, I don't see nothing wrong with what they are doing.
Yeah, and that's why I said there's nothing like when you trust your government. That's why when the Gleaner story first came out, I didn't run out in panic because once, let me tell you something, and anybody who follow my channel and so them know say, when it comes down to Dr. Horace Chang, I will close my eyes and him can cross the road, right? A man who can bring down crime to a 30-odd year low. Yes, I will shut my eye and you can hold my hand and cross me across the street. So when we see the Gleaner come out, and when I heard what Dr. Chang said and everything, I trust the man. They're going him and Andrew Holness are going to do what is in the interest of the Jamaican people. If the PNP was there, I don't know what they would do. I can only hope that if they were in government, that they would do the right thing for the Jamaican people's sake. But that's not always a guarantee with them. I don't trust them. You know what I mean? So it's okay. I mean, it is what it is. And like I said, if Jamaicans pack up in other people's country, if a couple man or a woman come to Jamaica and they say, all right, we want to stay here so them people are nice to it. And we like on the country and the country beautiful and paradise. But we're going to see if we can stay here so. Right? And if they apply for stay there and them are no criminal and they not cost nothing, they stay. We don't see no problem with that.
Right.
Welcome home, you know?
All right, Natalie. So as we head to the tarmac and bring this plane down on this Good Friday, what are your final thoughts?
Well, my final thoughts begin with I'm hoping for stability in our parliament. I think we need that right now. And I think the government has a duty to do a better job. And I'm talking specifically about the speaker, leader of the house, they have a duty to make sure that, the people of Jamaica, whether they're in the diaspora or at home, that when we are tuning into our parliament, we can see an orderly session each time.
Yes.
Yeah,
Very
that's not too
importantly.
much to ask. And the next thing is Jamaicans, I'm proud of Jamaica because with all the issues and the challenges that we're faced with, from the hurricane that we just had to this foreign relation issue that's on our plate now with the US and everything like that, we certainly elected the right people to make these decisions and to navigate us, out of crisis and everything like that. And, no feel no way. No matter the attempts at character assassinating our government and all these, that's just, we've seen this movie before. But rest assured that the government that we elected September 3rd 2025, they're going to always act in the interest of the Jamaican people, and anything beyond that is a lie and propaganda. Okay, so however you can help to bring the truth across on whatever platform you're on, whether you make a comment, whether you are speaking, and whether you have an audience like Neighbor and I do, you have a duty to participate, because our country our country should not be brought down by a set of people who are so hungry for power that they will lie, they will, attack people who are serving our country, weaponizing integrity bodies. That's not who we are, and that's not who we should become.
Okay. Ruler Brown wanted to ask you a question. You're on, Ruler.
Hi, Ruler.
Good evening, neighbor, and let me just say, man, that young lady you have on your screen there, she's a champion for Jamaica. Natalie, big up yourself, neighbor, years ago, I think it was about 10 years ago, when I was doing my show in the States, Natalie usually comes on and just, you can tell she's a patriot. You can tell she loves the people of Jamaica. And now that I'm living here in Jamaica, I pick up a lot of what's going on in terms of current news and to listen to her analysis, very honest analysis on Facebook. So Natalie, big up yourself, We only wish you were in Jamaica to be that person to run that war room. And I've been saying this for the longest time. And Natalie, you know your stuff.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much, Ruler. And yes, it has been that long.
Yep. 10 years ago.
And tell neighbor that you are one of the Jamaicans who return home, and you're living in paradise, and you're having a good time, and that's how it should be as a returning resident.
Yes, and let me also add that neighbor is someone I discovered during the election process, and he's well spoken. He knows his stuff. He's very respectful of people, and he runs a very good show along with Caroline. And again, neighbor, big up yourself again. And I know I've not been on for a while, but thank you so much for having me on to say hi to my good friend Natalie.
Well, sir,
thank you.
I'll bring her back more often so that I'll see you.
Okay. Thanks again.
Thank you, Rula. Take care.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you so much. Just wanna say to our friends over on YouTube to please subscribe to the channel, the Hello Neighbor Show. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so, and please subscribe also to Natalie's channel. JP, you know Natalie?
Yes, Jamaica Politics Uncovered 2.0 on YouTube.
Right, and we're asking all of you folks over there on YouTube to like and subscribe to the channel.
And join us in the War Room tomorrow. Tomorrow is War Room with me and Miss Karen and Michelle. So yeah, you guys come on over and check it out.
Yeah. So okay, so you do that over with Natalie tomorrow. Well, Natalie, until next week, Friday, have a great week.
Thank you so much for having me, neighbor. You have a good night, and good night to your viewers.
I want to say good night to all of your listeners also, and all your viewers and subscribers. Great to have you. Thank you so much for tuning in to Hello Neighbor and Natalie Friday edition. Catch you next week, Friday again, when we'll be with you again cover everything from what's happening in Parliament to the streets. Natalie and I break it down for you. Thank you so much, Nats.
Yes, good night. Thank you.
All right, great. All right, so thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shafreen. Thank you so much. Of course, we are going to be now moving over to Scratchy and Harry as we head on up to 10 o'clock. Good night to you, member Harry and member Scratchy. How do you do?
Blessed night, neighbor. Blessed night, Harry, my bro.
Yeah. Scratchy, probably we should continue the conversation on firstly the weekly matter. Much have been said about it already, Scratchy and Harry. But I maintain that the whole matter of fairness must be applied. And I see a lot of people are instructing the Prime Minister how he's to act and what he is and is not to do. Almost as if the Prime Minister wants advice from them, Scratchy. Don't you trust the Prime Minister to look at all the sides here and make the best decision?
Definitely, neighbor. The Prime Minister, neighbor, will be privy, neighbor, to first and one-on-one discussion between himself, neighbor, Mr. Wheatley, neighbor. The Prime Minister, neighbor, is competent enough, neighbor, to make whatever decision is in the best interest of Jamaicans, neighbor. So I'm not perturbed, neighbor. I'm not worried, neighbor. I am not worried either about the persons who are calling for Prime Minister to do this or Prime Minister to do that, neighbor. It's just up to the Prime Minister, neighbor, and based on what he wants to do, neighbor. And me and you, neighbor, we understand the politics to a certain level, neighbor. And we know that it's still 6, 7, 8 months, neighbor, in our first term, neighbor. There are certain risks that the government or the governing party, neighbor, still hold, neighbor, because of their political victories are super good, that they can still run a certain level of risk, neighbor, and still, hold some form of momentum, neighbor, and might gain the respect of the people the same way. But I'm not worried about whatever the PNP want to say, Mark Goldner and the PNP want to say, neighbor. It is up to the Prime Minister, and there's only one person who can ask Mr. Wheatley to resign, and he resign, and he's the Prime Minister. So no one else, neighbor, has that power and that authority. So I'm not worried, neighbor. I'm just looking out, and just know that whatever decision the Prime Minister make, I stand in that decision, neighbor, and I will back my Prime Minister 100%, neighbor. Prime Minister is the one who will be boxed up. I'm not worried. There's nothing in the integrity report either. There's nothing in the integrity commission report now that says that Mr. Wheatley should resign, neighbor. That also must be noted. There's nothing in the report that said he should resign. There's nothing in the report that said that he's guilty. There's recommend that he be charged, and he can be charged and not be guilty. So there's a lot to say here about. It's up to the Prime Minister. That's where the book stops.
Yeah, Harry, the matter of the way we practice our politics in Jamaica, very tribal. Because probably the shoe was on the other foot. You never could tell what the responses would have been. 2, politics in Jamaica is largely practiced in what is in the best interest of the party. In that regard, Harry, focusing on what the opposition say is really a waste of time, because they will not say anything different.
Neighbor, this opposition will always oppose in a neighbor, right? Because even when they can't state it explicitly that they're opposing, like the matter we have now, they give you the perception as if they would not have done the same thing.
Right.
Because if you listen to how Mark Golding phrases his response, right, you can see what he's saying, but also what he has allowed
to be said,
members to come out and reflect on at the state.
Right.
Because he doesn't want to take the responsibility to say it, So he let the others, because you know what he can hide behind, neighbor? Those are the views expressed by that member independently. But him as the leader cannot shoulder such a statement or such a position. So he's carefully coining and choosing the words that he say while giving the perception of something else. So what it's come down to is the reality of the situation is that he would have agreed to the same deal, probably worse, because we may not have had any form of leverage our proper negotiation and bring in the relevant persons, such as the International Organization of Migration. Many persons don't know that, so it simply means that this deal, we're not breaking any international laws, for one, at the same time protecting the rights of those who will be passing through and our citizens. Because we all know the opposition, when they're in power, they don't have the know-how, neighbor, to actually do proper governance and practice that. But where the country is right now, and with the type of opposition we have, it's just empty barrels. So whatever they say, I wouldn't even want to say take it with a grain of salt. Don't take it at all. Because they have showed us time and time again, from the election and before, and leading up with this, the Melissa disasters and after, that they are not competent and they should not be considered on a lot of these issues, especially one with geopolitical affairs, neighbor. They've shown us that they are, with them it's child's play, put it that way, to be nice and to be respectful. So they don't know about how to handle these things. And I can guarantee you, Jamaica wouldn't have any leverage, or sovereignty wouldn't have been protected. And I can probably tell you that we may never have known about it at all. So that's one of the things people need to understand about the two political parties currently, the government and the opposition. This opposition is looking for every and anything that they can clutch at and they can magnify it, right? Because they can't offer anything else but to oppose. So we can't really listen to them. The people of Jamaica has voted on September 3rd, 2025, and they've chosen who they have faith in leading. And they've also chose who they rather see as an opposition. And if you're best fit as an opposition, it simply means you cannot tell the government what to do. The people have spoken, and you have to respect what they have said in our democratic process through the elections.
Thank you. Scratchy, I think one of the points that is being missed here is that Dr. Wheatley's case does not involve any taxpayers' money.
A very good point, neighbor. That was something that I was looking at, the neighbor. I was saying, neighbor, that Dr. whatever is there to with Dr. Wheatley, it was a link, neighbor, to any government funds. And then it was a link to any of taxpayers' funds, neighbor. So that is also something is that we also to look at it from that standpoint as well. Very good point to raise, neighbor. And I think a lot of persons, neighbor, need to take that in consideration, that just because it's an illicit enrichment, it doesn't necessarily mean that whatever enrichment they are talking about is coming from the government coffers or from taxpayers, you know. In this case, neighbor, the report didn't make any mention of that, saying that they knew where the funds was coming from, or speculated, or said that they could saw where the funds were coming from, neighbor. So that's a very good point again. And that's something, neighbor, that would work in the advantage of Dr. Wheatley, neighbor, in his pursuit, neighbor, of his innocence.
Yeah. In terms of political fallout, Scratch, it has been milked by the opposition. Obviously, that's how we practice politics in Jamaica. And as I said, to be fair, if it was the other side, some milking would have happened. Same. So, you said earlier that the government is early in their term, and therefore there are some risks that could be taken now. 4.5 years out of the next election. Do you suspect that there will be any political fallout?
Looking at it right now, neighbor, if there's going to be any political fallout, it's not going to be right now, neighbor. I know the media operate, neighbor. We know the agenda of the media. We know the agenda of civil society, neighbor. It is up to the government, neighbor, to measure, neighbor, if they how they can respond to this, you know. It is up to the government, neighbor, to manage to measure how they can manage the media attention. Will it distract, neighbor, the government in any way, shape, or form? Will it prevent the government, neighbor, from pushing the narrative? Will this now take center point, neighbor, where every press conference is done by with questions in regards to Dr. Wheatley? Every time the government or parliament or the government go to parliament and leave parliament, it's done. You know, so it's all up to the government, neighbor, to measure how much of a shadow this current situation, neighbor, will put and all its other things that it is planning and all its other things that it is doing over the past couple of years. So that measurement neighbor is up to the government, and whatever outcome the government get from that measurement neighbor, that is all neighbor will determine neighbor the political risk now that they can run going forward. As I said before, it's very early in the political life neighbor, and any advantage that a governing party has neighbor, it is within the first year or the first 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months neighbor of its political life. And the Jamaica Labour Party is currently in that phase right now. So will it be a slap in the face of Jamaicans? No. But again now neighbor, the next part now that we have to look at now, after we look at all of this now, we have to look at the end part now neighbor. We understand how the court system in Jamaica rule neighbor. If Dr. Wheatley neighbor should decide that the Prime Minister decide that okay, Dr. Wheatley will remain, but the case will go to the court neighbor. No, it will cause a greater ruckus neighbor if whatever verdict is come of this case neighbor is done in 3 years time or 4 years time. God forbid if something and information come out and things start to make the water look more muddy or cause some more reason for speculation, it will definitely neighbor cause some form of political harm now to the governing party going forward, because it would have been something about the government had a chance to nip in the bud from early, but they run the political risk of letting it go through another cycle. So it is up to the party neighbor and our best neighbor, they measure it neighbor. They have the mechanism, they have the skill neighbor, they have the level-headed person, the Prime Minister neighbor, who has been in a situation like this before. He knows neighbor the nature of these things, and he knows how to act neighbor. And as I said before, it's up to the Prime Minister. But the government neighbor has a lot to look for neighbor from a governance standpoint and also from a political standpoint neighbor. Because we all know neighbor, we can talk about governance from now till the morning. It is political parties that form government that form political parties. So whatever you do, you have to look at what it will do for you from a governance standpoint, but you have to also neighbor be cognizant and be cautious neighbor of what it can do to you from a political standpoint. So it's up to the government neighbor, and whatever measurement they use and how they come out neighbor with this with the outcome neighbor, and decide if they're willing to run a risk or if there's no risk at all to run, you know.
And what are the possible fallouts that you could be looking at here, Scratchy? Because realistically, the government is not going to be able to there will be some amount of repair job to be done, even from a public relations standpoint. Are you surprised that the Prime Minister or the government to this point have not made a statement on the matter?
No, I'm not surprised neighbor. I expected this neighbor. The Prime Minister neighbor is not working neighbor. Whatever the opposition wants to say neighbor, or whatever civil society wants to push neighbor, the Prime Minister know that he's the Prime Minister and the box up with him neighbor. The Prime Minister neighbor has to go through this report himself neighbor. It's a long document. The Prime Minister has to go through the report himself neighbor. The Prime Minister I expect neighbor to also meet with Mr. Wheatley neighbor. The Prime Minister will also meet with his cabinet neighbor. And I also expect neighbor some form of meeting to be also held neighbor from a political standpoint, meeting in terms of the hierarchy of the Jamaica Labour Party. So there's a lot to be done neighbor in situations like these neighbor. And I'm gonna say something neighbor. And I don't know if you would agree with me or not neighbor, but to be honest, I don't see much political fallout coming from this neighbor.
No.
I don't see much political fallout coming from this neighbor. And one of my reasons for saying this neighbor, and this is not to bash Mr. Wheatley neighbor in any way, shape or form neighbor. But Mr. Wheatley neighbor has been out of the cabinet neighbor for an extended period of time. I believe I go from 21, 22.
7 years. 7 years.
7 years he was out of the cabinet for neighbor. Wasn't someone who was getting any form of media attention certain way neighbor. Mr. Wheatley was recently brought back in the cabinet neighbor as a minister without court.
And been very quiet. And
he has been very quiet neighbor. So
in other words, impact on government, you know, it's very minimal.
Very minimal neighbor. The impact on government is very minimal. We know neighbor who the People's National Party are after neighbor. We know the members of the Jamaica Labour Party, the members of the government, and the members of the cabinet. Who the People's National Party really wants to go after neighbor. And I think neighbor that Mr. Wheatley being out of the fray neighbor. I am a Jamaican neighbor. And I stand for law and order, but I also know, neighbor, how understanding my country's neighbor towards certain things, neighbor. And I can tell you, neighbor, that once it was highlighted that Mr. Wheatley was found, neighbor, to take any money from any ministry, any agency, or any government.
But why haven't the party pushed that more? Because I think that's where the real story is for Jamaicans. And you know, one of the things that I think that we must always be mindful of is that we have to keep educating our people, Scratchy. We have to keep providing them with proper information so that they can evaluate it and make good decisions. Because there are many people, you know, Scratchy, who are taking a view that Wheatley, them bad mind him. Hello.
Them bad mind him.
Yes, I mean, when you talk to people on the ground, there are those people, Scratchy. You're making the point that, listen to me, Wheatley has, this matter don't involve any matter related to government resources. This is about Wheatley's own resources that is being investigated. And a lot of people will take the line that, you know, they bad mind Wheatley.
Yeah, well, of course, a lot of persons will definitely take that line here, but this is Jamaica, a lot of persons understand and know that when if I'm a taxpayer money in thief, and this or that, neighbor, but we live in a culture, neighbor, we live in a country with a certain level of culture, not to say it's right or anything, but this is I don't see any great political neighbor damage coming to the organization or the political organization neighbor called the Jamaica Labour Party from this neighbor. As I said, neighbor, we know who are the main target of the People's National Party, neighbor. We know who they want to see, neighbor. Jamaicans, neighbor, know who they see with the on TV talking and this ministry and that ministry, neighbor. Mr. Wheatley has been relatively quiet over the past period of time, you know. So I not to say that yes, he's the deputy general secretary for the political organization, yes. We understand that's a very key role, neighbor. But again, I don't see any great fallout, neighbor. Mr. Wheatley come from a constituency, from a political standpoint, neighbor. Mr. Wheatley neighbor represent a constituency neighbor that votes predominantly Jamaica Labour Party neighbor. It doesn't matter who over there neighbor, the Jamaica Labour Party will always win that constituency.
That's true.
And Mr. Wheatley neighbor is a member of parliament that they love over there. And you know, so even if Mr. Wheatley is removed from the cabinet neighbor, you cannot remove him as a member of parliament. You know? So it is very difficult to remove him as a member of parliament. So we understand neighbor, we know the politics neighbor, but look from this angle, we are looking at neighbor. Otherwise, some media house is taking it up, neighbor. But how long can media house continue to run with this, neighbor? So, as I said, neighbor, I don't see much political damage coming from this, neighbor. I just don't see it, you know. Even the Dennis Garden argument, neighbor, I think neighbor caused more ruckus and more than this, neighbor. And not because I am biased towards the Jamaica Labour Party. I'm being real.
Yeah.
And
But would you say though that the PNP is more aggressive in holding the government when the government seemingly does something untoward than the government to the PNP side? When things happen over the PNP side, we don't get the same type of aggression from the government, or is it that the government lacks the support in the society?
Definitely, neighbor. Government lacks the support in the society, neighbor.
Oh.
Government definitely lacks the support in the society, neighbor, in terms of the persons, neighbor, who are charged with the responsibility, neighbor, to move information.
Because I see, for example, even with the church today coming out in the Dennis Gordon matter, we never saw that.
Exactly, neighbor. So, and Dennis Gordon matter was taxpayers' money.
Yes.
You know?
I mean, can you imagine a man with a contract for over 20? Can you imagine, Scratchy, that a man brings in items into the country, gets a tax relief, and sells those back to the university at a profit?
Crazy, madness, total madness.
And you never heard, but the party never pressure it, Scratchy. The party never pressure it.
No, the party didn't pressure it, neighbor, because as I said before, as I say again, the arms of government, the arms neighbor, the arms of Jamaica neighbor who are responsible for the dissemination of information from moving from one point to another neighbor. They don't support this type of message that is coming from the Jamaica Labour Party. And this is why neighbor, Mr. Wheatley thing won't go, Mr. Wheatley scenario here neighbor won't go anywhere, because if the PNP neighbor, and this is why I tell you some going in is not politically smart. in the People's National Party, neighbor, and put Dennis Garden neighbor in his place, neighbor, and Dennis Garden to step aside.
Then you would have the moral authority to speak.
They would have much more moral authority to speak, neighbor. Jamaicans will take them more serious now, neighbor. And say that, okay, PNP in a position and they make me step down. Why you not going? They don't have nothing to speak about, neighbor. That you just shut up and rubbish up and silent. Nothing to speak about. Because when the ball was in your court and you were supposed to take action, you never bowed to the public pressure. You wall out. You took how long to respond to Mr. Golin. And you wall out. You came out in defense first. And then you wall out how long before you respond. Come on, man. I know you want to come talk about. Give Prime Minister ultimatum and you didn't take your own taking a serious action on your part as a leader. But now you want to tell somebody else how to lead. Madness, neighbor. Madness. Total madness.
Okay, before I come back to Harry, Scratchy, Young Jamaica today demands apology from PNP President for human rights violation and state-sponsored political terrorism perpetuated by the PNP during the 1976 state of emergency. What is Young Jamaica asking for at a time like this? This is what Young Jamaica is what you make of that?
Neighbor, as I said before, neighbor, that I'm not a part of these groups, neighbor. I don't know what is their agenda. I don't know what's their agenda. I don't know what's their motive. I don't know what's their mission statement, neighbor. But sometimes, neighbor, I don't know how close these persons are, neighbor, to what is really going on the ground, neighbor. I don't know how close these persons are, neighbor, in terms of in reality, neighbor, to understanding what the political landscape is like in Jamaica. What are the topics that are being discussed? What is of national issue, neighbor? I can definitely say, neighbor, that amongst our voting population, neighbor, that we are targeted, and the voting population that votes, neighbor, for the Jamaica Labour Party, neighbor. A lot of us don't know what happened in 1976, neighbor.
Well, no, not at all.
A lot of us don't know what happened in 1976.
Although it must not be dismissed because it is a significant piece of history. But I'm just wondering in terms of what is the political strategy behind this.
Time and place, neighbor. Time and place. Yes, it is neighbor. It is a time that should be highlighted and say yes, neighbor. But time and place, neighbor. Time and place, neighbor. And right there's not the time, and right there's not this place, neighbor, for it, neighbor, because the political landscape right now, neighbor, the amount of attacks that the Jamaica Labour Party came on in just this week, neighbor.
Yeah.
There's much more things, neighbor, in regards to what is current.
Why not address, for example, the behavior of Miss Burchell in the parliament?
Exactly. Let's be current. Let's talk about Miss Burchell behavior in the parliament.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to understand that 1976 was happening.
Or Mark Bowling going to Montego Bay to tell the people how Jamaica mash up.
Exactly.
And talking about diaspora must come help run Jamaica. What type of foolishness is that? That is what
type of foolishness is that now? That's why I don't understand sometimes, neighbor, what these guys are doing, neighbor. These guys are trying to shift the narrative or what, neighbor. But some of these things don't gain from attraction, neighbor.
No.
Something like that, neighbor, about 1976.
Not no.
That won't get no from attraction right now, neighbor. That have no advancement for the political landscape, and that will not gain any form of attraction right now. So, and then a baseless statement, neighbor, from young Jamaica, neighbor.
Yeah.
I will not there bash them, neighbor, but we see these young groups, neighbor. I think they need to be raiding, neighbor. Somebody needs to be the realistic talk.
Yeah.
They need a real realistic talk, neighbor.
Yeah.
They need to come off of whatever high horse they are, neighbor, and understand, that you're representing from a political landscape. So when you're coming from a political landscape, don't try to come with a certain level of press releases or certain things there, but that has nothing to do with the direct or the current form of the political landscape. Feed the people the information that they want so that we can report what the PNP is saying. Put out press conferences that have to do with the attack that the Jamaica Labour Party is coming.
Yes, and the bullying in the parliament by a member of the PNP. Those are current matters, and those are very important matters to talk about.
Very important matters, neighbor. What happened in 1976, neighbor? Yes, it was a very bad situation, neighbor. But in this current landscape, neighbor, that not going to gain no form of traction. Nobody will want to hear them rather than the interest in that neighbor. These first time voters, second time voters, third time voters, they don't know nothing about 1976 neighbor. And it is something neighbor that I think neighbor, it should be young Jamaican neighbor who asking for any form of apology neighbor from that level neighbor in regard to something like that. You get me?
Yes.
I think that what would I apology that young Jamaica is asking from in regard to that neighbor. It's about for them pay grade. That there's places neighbor where that can be taken from a higher level from persons who want higher office.
And it would get more traction.
And it will get more traction if it's really traction you know what to get. So I don't understand why young Jamaica neighbor we try to come with a statement like that neighbor.
Uh-huh.
There are mechanisms in neighbor offices neighbor and the state can push that further.
Fantastic. Harry?
Yes, neighbor.
I'd love to hear you on the positioning of news in terms of the government definitely will have to at some point respond to the weekly matter, but today Young Jamaica, of all the issues to be discussed, chose to take us back to 1976. Your background is giving us a little problem though, remember?
Hold on, let me check. You hearing me, neighbor?
Yes.
Okay. A little better?
A little better.
Okay. Neighbor, there's a question I want to ask Young Jamaica. Is which member of the executive for Young Jamaica went to a history class at UWI and came out to write an article? Because for sure, they can't expect Jamaicans to take them serious.
Wow.
With a post like that. It shows how far from reality they are, neighbor. Imagine we're dealing with a situation, right? Current affairs. Let me dub this part for them as current affairs. They can run with that if they do choose. We're still in the recovery process when it comes to rebuilding process of Melissa, which is more imminent. We're trying to get back not just physical infrastructure, but change the psychology of people, advancing them as we go along.
Nara is still very much current.
Nara is their neighbor, right? And you're going to come with something from 1976 and to ask for an apology and to be real here, neighbor. If the People's National Party will never apologize to Finsack, you think they're going to apologize in 1976? We have to be realistic. And it shows how disconnected Young Jamaica, which is affiliated arm, is. And I would have thought they would have, and I don't want to box them in, but I expected them to stick to a certain area of history. Right? It named Young Jamaica for a reason. And yes, you want to inform people about the past. But you think anybody was facing the current noise and the bombarding of information and what is happening currently? They're going to pay you in attention about what happened in 1976. None of them are going to tell us, listen, my granny time that. Right? They want to know what is happening now. And it is something that Scratchy said it, time and place. Neighbor, if they wanted that post to be relevant, Black History Month gone. It was a perfect time. That was a layup for them to actually do it. In that period where people is going in deep history, we're reflecting on all of that, and you could link it in that period. But you can't come now when so much things are happening and you just come through something random. Because this is random,
Never expected at all.
Neighbor, it is so far, and I want to tell them, come out of the office. Anybody will write it, take a walk out of the office, go touch grass, come in the streets, right? Take some time to know really and truly what's happening in Jamaica. Take a trip up a UWI, see what's happening, something. But don't come with a piece like this. It now gives off how far you are from the reality of the people. They can't take you seriously, and they don't see you as current within their space. Because now you're going to give somebody history lesson on when them want to know when them roof are going to fix, when them probably can find additional job, them want to know when them road are going to sort out, all these things, and you give them history lesson. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Tell them if we don't come again, neighbor, and go back to the drawing board.
Okay. Comment on the political fallout, possibly for the government, if there is any. Or do you see any reasons for the government to be concerned based on this week events from the matter concerning the persons to be transitioned to Jamaica to the weekly matter? Any concerns in terms of fallout?
Well, Jamaica is a very unique place in a neighbor. We don't have we don't coin the statement. A lot of things in Jamaica is a 9-day talk, right? We're known for that. Certain things blows over really quickly. But I think the most one that the Andrew Wheatley one will die. It will die very, very soon.
You really think so?
Neighbor, here's why it will die. As long as the Prime Minister does not come and give it any utterance and any relevance in terms of, picking one side or the other of the situation, the People's National Party will not have any leverage, because that is what they really want in a neighbor. They want him to give a form of reaction through.
In other words, his intervention is going to become the news.
Will become that, exactly that, right?
So everyone is anticipating what the Prime Minister will do, and you are saying he should just not do anything right now.
Simply put, neighbor, Mark Golding stood by Dennis Gordon wholesomely, right? Having taken $10 million out of Jamaica's coffers by evading payment and so on, and they think paying it back would have absolved from the issue, having defiling a critical institution in Jamaica, because the USAA and a play institution.
Correct. But how is the Prime Minister to respond? How is the Prime Minister to respond, though, to civil society groups, the church, views from journalists, senior journalists like Emily Crooks, who is saying that it must happen this weekend, Cliff Hughes, they have influence. The Prime Minister would be listening. Do you think that these are going to have any impact on his decision?
Neighbor, his decision is solely down to the facts that he has, not the emotions that everybody else is playing on, right? Because believe it or not, Emily says or Emily speaks, I don't remember what her program is. She needs some level of relevance as well, neighbor.
On the hotline.
So she will touch on the issue, right? It's the same thing in terms of Nationwide was covered rather well, a lot of stories, right?
By the way, I saw Tyrone Reed over at CVM. He has left Nationwide.
No, he hasn't, neighbor. He's actually doing a collaboration with CVM. So he's still at Nationwide from the last report up to a week and a half ago. So he's just doing a collaboration there. Because you can move in terms of between media houses based on projects in the neighborhood.
Freelance.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, fascinating. I heard him interviewing Julian Robinson, and I was amazed, because I said, it depends on where you are. Because I don't even think if he was over at Nationwide that Mr. Robinson would join him over there. But
he would.
Eh?
They don't want any interview is done with any representative from the People's National Party, neighbor. They see it as them giving Nationwide some level.
So you want to tell me that if we move from Politics Plus, we have to tone down our hard-hitting questioning?
Well, neighbor, as long as we don't fall under the group, I'm not giving them publicity, a certain group, the largest media group in Jamaica, as long as we don't fall under that, I think we'll have a certain level of leverage regardless. But if we're under that, I can tell you, Scratchy won't be here.
But there was a question that it was a different Tyrone. That different Tyrone. I said to myself, good God Almighty, I tell you the truth. I
think Tyrone have a little bit more leeway and room, neighbor, when he's at Nationwide.
Yes.
Rather than if and when he's at the other doing the other collaboration, because if you listen to how he speaks, when he comes on to Nationwide on Fridays, you know, it's a more relaxed type of Tyrone, still giving.
I see one of my listeners saying that he has moved on. That George Davis said he has moved on.
It was announced this week.
Well, it was Mr. Hughes who did the program today, not Tyrone.
Mm-hmm.
And I just you see I start, you know, Harry, I start developing sources in you know, I don't know why people think I am a jerk. you know the amount of calls and texts that I get. If I'm not careful, Harry, then this becomes a full-time job for me. When I come off here, all through the day, people are calling me with information. People are pushing things under my door. People are sending me anonymous messages. And so from last week, someone called me to give me this information. And, you know, I'm trying to develop journalistic skills, you know, so I have to check my sources. you have to start making calls to find out things, you know. You have to start making anonymous calls and have people call people to find out what is happening. But I have a very good source that know things in Jamaica. And that source, if you are listening to me, thank you. You always keep me current. I will never disclose who you are. Yeah, so they told me that gave me that information when the gentleman from CBM moved to GIS.
Yeah, because I know he did mention the collaboration like about 2 weeks ago, because I saw that clip with him initially. And I do know they're able to, you know, move across depending on.
You remember when Mr. Hughes was down at Power 106 doing a show for them? You remember?
Yeah.
You remember?
Yes, neighbor, go ahead.
Yes. So Mr. Hughes used to work with Power 106, you know. He used to do the talk show at Power 106 and then came back to his station to do Nationwide at 5. Anyway, so you are saying, Harry, that the Prime Minister intervening in this will cause it to enlarge the story.
Yeah, it will, neighbor, because what they'll do, you know, is if he comes out and, you know, explicitly says he's going to, not that he will do this, but just saying for the saying sake, he stands by Andrew Wheatley, you're going to hear the narrative in the streets and from surrogates and so on. And these so-called civic groups, I still not calling them civic groups, neighbors, but these political affiliated groups that are cowards to say what they are, right, comes out and you'll hear them saying, oh, it's because both of them are the same, you know, birds of a feather flock together kind of situation. But the stance I would look at the Prime Minister to take is to reinforce the faith in our systems, in our institutions, and to let due process reign.
Yes.
Because that is the best possible way, not even from a political standpoint or anything, but from a humanitarian standpoint, neighbor, and what is just. That is what should take place. The IC has done a job. Not the job, not the right job. They've done a job, and that's my perspective. Now it's time for Andrew Wheatley to go ahead and let us hear his side from the legal standpoint and get this squash. And we have to, neighbor, if we walk the road to Singapore, we have to be able to have faith in the systems that are there, in the institutions that are there to play their part. And the IC has done a part of a job, and now it's up to the judiciary system to play their part to determine what the facts are and not what the subjectivity of it is, because I still see from the report there is a level of subjectivity with the IC, and they need to clean house as well, neighbor. They need to get their acts together for anybody to take them serious, because if there's another issue of this nature, I can tell you, just as good as we disband the IC, because they have a lot hanging over their heads right now. But overall, neighbor, it is what the Prime Minister does or say that will help determine how far this situation goes. Because there's really nothing much to it, you know, in all honesty. There's really nothing much to it. And I want to say to the likes of like Emily and so on, I never hear she talk about Dennis Gordon should be out of office. I never heard her. Right? So you cannot be calling for one person who never steal anything. There's no proof of that whatsoever. None of the evidence points towards that.
Yeah. Well, you know,
the audit for Dennis has shown otherwise.
Yeah, Harry. Mr. Hughes is a senior journalist in Jamaica, and he gets a lot of shares from labor rights. I see he's coming under a bit of a flack for saying this today. Listen.
Does he fire him, or us has to make the call? Does he fire him, or ask him, direct him to resign? It's his call. It's a tough place to be in, but that is what the job comes with. And this is not to try whether or not there's merit in the Integrity Commission's findings. That will have to be decided in a court of law. And that's why he's lawyering up, muscling up to fight that. But there's a political problem now. How do you continue with him in the cabinet when he's facing criminal charges? The accepted convention and practice is you take away yourself, clear your name. I suspect that history and convention will prevail, and Wheatley will take away himself. Time for the break.
Okay, Harry,
Yes, neighbor.
I put it to you that I have learned this craft since I've been here for 1 year, the craft of journalism. And I must tell you, I've never sat down one day in the school, but I have to think things through. I think that what Hugh said there is not only an opinion, but something that he is being prompted to say. A journalist of his capacity and seniority normally gets inside information. Do you think that this is him priming the public for what is to happen?
Well, when I listen to neighbor and the
think about it a little bit.
phrases.
Think about a little bit what I said, especially what he says at the end there. You know, he did say at the end, you know, that he's going to be having a very special guest on Monday. I think it probably is the Prime Minister. But I'm saying to you that sometimes these journalists are preparing the public. They're laying the foundation, laying the ground for what is to come.
Well, when I listen to what Cliff says, neighbor, he put across two questions. So he has an opinion in it, you know. The opinion kind of coming in the last part with the convention mentioning
Right.
in terms of what we've seen practice. No, it is not law. It is not a policy. It's just something we have a consensus have been agreed upon. And it's a little informal, but that's what we expect, right?
Right.
And Cliff Hughes phrased the questions, highlighting somewhat of his perspective, but left it at questions, neighbor.
Yes.
Which is very smart. He's actually a neighbor, attempting to speak to different subsections of Jamaica.
Yes.
While also protecting himself to say he has chose a side. Effective way of communication, neighbor, in putting across the news without, well, to come out unscathed, if anything.
And you don't think that he probably is preempting the news, that what the news will be?
He puts it out to say these are the possibilities, and this is what we've seen. History has had it that this is what we normally see happen. But he doesn't want to explicitly come out and say that is his view, that this should happen, like an Emily, what Emily did. Emily outright and blatantly called for the removal. Cliff Hughes coined it more eloquently, if I want to spruce it up. And he's also paving a pathway as to how we should be viewing the situation. Now, whoever that guest is on Monday will left to confirm if this is exactly what he has done, because of course this is our perspective on what he has said, and I know other persons will have other perspectives as well. But I think he has pivoted the conversation from people condemning Wheatley without just cause. And it's a very good way when the art of journalism is employed, not the business of journalism, because he's going to get some business from this,
Oh, yes. Already there.
But he has brought back something that we've seen with proper journalism, neighbor, when you don't want to necessarily prompt somebody for what is to come out right, but you can pivot them to think in a certain pathway and to kind of throw a little water upon fire. Because really and truly, he's saying to us, like, this man is not guilty, but the conventional way we've seen is that you take some time away from your regular role to go and clear your name per se, and then you can return. And I think he's able to get away with this one, neighbor. I'll definitely say he has been able to escape, and he has done so pretty well. But I know, persons who will be thinking of it in a tribalistic way, and they've affiliated NNN with Jamaica Labour Party and solely so, and all of that. They will still see this through one lens, which really and truly makes no sense. And I also know you will have Jamaica Labour Party persons out there, supporters out there, who it doesn't sit well with them because an outright position wasn't taken. And that's fine too, because you have a job to do. He has done the job, and he has left you to think as an individual to come up with your perspective as to what has been said.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you a very, very strange question. I've been told that ever since Mr. Hughes made that blunder to have announced the local elections for Golding, that, well, maybe I should leave it. Maybe I should leave it. Maybe I should leave it alone. Maybe I should leave it. Hold on. Scratchy? Scratchy? He's gone.
Never.
Yeah, I'd love to hear you on this. Do you think that Mr. Hughes is reporting what is going to happen come next week?
It's possible, neighbor. It's very much possible. And a good point to raise again, thinking deep. It's possible, neighbor. I would have counted out. It's possible, neighbor. We have premises neighbor out there, neighbor. There's the PNP and another organization, neighbor. They tend to class our dub nationwide, neighbor, as JLPFM. It's a radio station, neighbor, who has been the most fair and most balanced, neighbor, in regard to towards the government. Our media house has been the most balanced towards the government. So I don't see I've seen even more crisis where they have stand up with the government, neighbor, and trying to prove from point one point to the next point. So I really don't see why, neighbor, now at this point in time, they will try to derail or whatever is going on here. So, as I say, it is a great point, neighbor. It can be laying as a foundation, neighbor, setting up and getting person for an understanding to know what is to come, so that whenever it hits the year, neighbor, you can say that, okay, nationwide and Cliff Hughes, neighbor, break it first, or said this first, or said whatever, neighbor.
Yes.
It's all about media, tricks in trade and matching boxing business. So, good point to raise. It's possible.
It is. Scratchy, I got another piece of information that the government is seriously considering a reforming of its communications department, and are seriously considering the appointment of a press secretary to be fully engaged in combating misinformation, speaking to the press, regular updates. I think it would be a great move by the party, don't you?
I mean, definitely, neighbor. We see, see the rapid pace of the disinformation and misinformation. So if someone or a set of people can directly be put in place, you know, to directly neighbor who has these things come out who can rebut, you know, within a timely manner. I see nothing wrong with that because it's a lot. It take away a lot neighbor from the Minister of Information. She's also the Minister of Education. So she has a lot to do neighbor in terms of her ministerial duties. To break from her ministerial duties neighbor every time a misinformation in regard to something that has to do with a portfolio that she covers neighbor. And if every time she has to come and say something about that, it take away from her, from her completing her duties. So if there's a direct group of person neighbor, a person put in place neighbor, who roles and responsibility and objective neighbor is to combat the misinformation within a timely manner with factual information. I can't be down that. I can't see nothing wrong with that neighbor because we see where Jamaica is now neighbor, we see where misinformation is taking a very deep toll on our society neighbor, view their government and our society view policies and programs. And it has reached a level now near where it is definitely cause of concern. So whichever way out the government best sees suit neighbor, where they can try to combat it neighbor, get it flagged immediately on social media and stuff like that. That would be the best interest of the country and the best interest of the government as well. So I can't see nothing wrong with that. I would definitely applaud something like that. I just hope that whoever they get is someone who understands where information is right now at this day and age. Someone who understands who can manipulate technology to a certain level in terms of combating and flagging these things and reporting these things. So I don't think it's wrong with that neighbor. Good move.
Yeah. Well, when you have a man like Pellucid Perry. By the way, listen to this. I want you to listen to this. I want you to listen to this. Okay, listen to this. Listen to this. This is Mr. Perry on the campaign trail. Fascinating young man he is, you know. All right, listen.
That it is not greener on the other side. Somebody said time come. I have been analyzing the political atmosphere, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to clarify a few things. A lot of persons believe the comrades are against the bus system. We're not against the bus system, comrades. Am I speaking truth here tonight? But the way that seems right.
No, this is a preacher, you know. This is a preacher, man. He's preaching. He gets very good.
To a man may very well end up in destruction. Somebody say amen. When I look on social media, Mr. Buchanan, all I see is broken down yellow buses with tires.
No. When I look on social media, all I see is broken down yellow buses. You know what Mr. Perry did there is that he is exploiting the crowd in front of him. And they are there shouting, yeah. That is Jamaica's problem, you know. When I look in front, when I look at all I see, how much bus broke down? How much bus broke down? Me see one or two. Here when say, what a man. And he does
on social media,
he does it in the name of the Lord.
Mr. Buchanan, all I see is broken down yellow buses. The tires, them are rotten off. I wonder if I'm at the right place tonight. Hold on. And when the people have a problem with the modus operandi as to how they get the buses, them tell we bad mind, the devil is a liar. How if we bad mind?
That's it. Then say we have the bad mind.
If the offering plate did pass around.
The devil is a liar. And the devil called them bad mind. No. This piece of tape, you see, somebody sent it to me. And they said, neighbor, what do you think about this? And I said to myself, really? Somebody's really invoking the gospel, preaching the gospel in a way like this? It's almost blasphemous. It's almost blasphemous. And I would say to my friend, Mr. Perry, practice your politics, Perry. Practice your politics. Left, the gospel. The gospel is the message of salvation, the good news of the kingdom. Okay? And it's not a political message. The gospel is not a political message, you hear, Mr. Perry? Right? And for you to be up there wooing voters and using the psychology of theology, not right. Anyway, the point I wanted to make, why I brought that up, is that, Harry, is that when you have a man like Mr. Perry that is so skilled at manipulating people, the party will have to respond in quicker ways to counteract the type of damage that they can do. Don't agree?
Well, to be honest, in a neighbor, he was speaking to their core, to their die-hearted persons, because I really and truly don't think Mr. Perry, my good friend Perry, would be able to convert anybody listening, right? Especially not when it comes on to gospel, because one of the things I think, and this is why I gave the advice I gave him the other night, neighbor, the brotherly advice, because he's behind far and able. What I mean by that, you are a man of God, you are in the church, and also the political arena. You are now liable for every and any attack, because those two don't mix and mingle. And it's an easy line, almost invisible line, that he doesn't know that he has crossed.
Yes. Yes.
And now what you'll be faced with is that people use your political affiliations against your religious belief and vice versa. Because one of the first things you're going to hear, how can a man of God like this come side with a political party that has done something like the 1976, because I want that to be relevant. Then no, to come and say he won't be supporting an unrighteous government, but then to see the stance of the party he supports. And that puts him in a very hard position, one that he's damn if he does, and he's damn if he doesn't, neighbor. That is the position he puts himself in, and he has to understand that. I know his love for why he studied political science, but you have to be exceptionally careful as to how you traverse these waters, because they are troubled waters.
Very troubled waters at all. Is youthful exuberance, a little bit, Alexander Pope, Mr. Perry says, a little learning is a dangerous thing. Drink deep or do not taste of the spring. The spring, sir. The spring. Because yeah. Anyway, let's wrap up then, Harry. It's past 10 o'clock. This has been a fascinating week. From Parliament to the Porty deal to Wheatley. It has been a fascinating week, and there's no question that the conversations will be deepened over the weekend, and will continue apace on Monday. How do you expect, therefore, Harry, the transition from this week to next week? What do you expect the news on Monday to be? We are forecasting now.
Well, I expect to see the news put another attack on Dr. Horace Chang, for comparing both the press conference or the post-cabinet meeting and also the other meeting he gave to the public, because they are saying there are some things that are adding up when it comes on to those. And then they'll couple it with an old video of Marco Rubio's statement from, I believe, over a year ago. And the media, specifically social media as well, will be running with that, because I don't think these people care about time when something is said.
Oh,
right?
They sent that to me. They sent that to me long time, and exactly. I said, "Oh my goodness!" But we have to be very and Harry. We here at the Plus, and I must ask you this as one of the editors. Harry, do you think that we should continue to focus on these distractions, or do we return to our Road to Singapore series? How do we navigate both?
Well, I would say, no, neighbor, these are all the things that will be on the road to Singapore, you know. It's a part of the journey. So our program setting up to lead us to the road to Singapore, all these things that are happening will be strengthening our position of educating and edifying the people of Jamaica locally and in the diaspora. Because as these events occur, it gives teaching lessons, it highlights issues in systems, it also gives Jamaican people examples of what we don't want at the destination at Singapore, metaphorically, right? So I think it plays rather well, because these are all teaching, neighbor. In fact, we can look back to see how some of these things have actually the time has passed, but a lot of things remain the same. So it gives us a lot to use, and I think as our listeners tune in every night, they will be learning more. There are many perspectives that can be taken, different angles can be taken, all in the same name of having conversations that matter, and to really open up the eyes of Jamaicans to let them know that, listen, there are some things we have to eliminate, and the more these events happen, some of these are what we're going to remove. Because maybe you think I want to see, for example, 2030 and beyond. You think I want to see a legislator and a parliament push up them mouth and upon live. I want to see
long out them tongues, so.
Yeah, I would want to see the chair the moment the phone whip out. Them a send a road to. That is how it's supposed to be. Because now you are technically taking the Jamaican people for a joke.
Yeah,
that
but
what is happening in Parliament is not serious.
But I got a thought today, Harry, as I was preparing for tonight's program, that on the road to Singapore, you can't develop a nation when your people are underdeveloped. That you have to develop the people. In other words, you have to take them along. And I wonder if we are not. There has to be a parallel. I think the Jamaican people are lacking. And I probably shouldn't put it like that, because I don't want to criticize them, because that's not good. I don't want to put down anyone. But how do we go there without developing the people? What are we going to do to develop the people along the path, Harry? Because all some of these discussions that we are having is as a result of a lack of understanding, you know.
It is. Some things happen over time, neighbor. You see the greatest thing about human beings, when they don't want to get left behind, they find it within themselves to level up. Here's why I say this. When you look at what happened in the 90s, neighbor, nobody thought we could have recovered. We didn't see no light at the end of no tunnel. We never seen no silver lining on no cloud. But in an attempt to not just survive, but to grow and to be better, hard decisions were made from an individual level for many persons. Remember, and I gave the stats. In the period between 2007 to about 2012, neighbor, Jamaica became the most degreed country in the Caribbean region, which means we had more degree persons. And that was as a result of we had to get it right. People had to become more educated in order to find opportunities, whether that is elsewhere and or create those very opportunities. So that gives me hope to say there will be moments where people will be moved, not necessarily by any speech, not even by certain conversations, but just by the desire that, listen, I don't want to be left behind. And as that happens, and it has to come from a moral standpoint, because that is one of the greatest things, neighbor. You see, once we bring back that moral compass and build back that fabric in society, we will see more people shun certain things, because our immorality in Jamaica is extremely high, you know.
It is.
And in the world, yes, at a very, probably at all-time high. But as these things are dialed back, as people get into the fray of wanting to improve, we will see these things happen. And one of the biggest things will be what you can see, the infrastructures that will be there, right? And people will be moved towards these things. And also outside influence, not just the diaspora, but what the rest of the world has to say about Jamaica. Because if it's one thing, you know, Jamaica is a very proud set of people, all in a foolishness. They're very proud. But I believe we can get in the right direction, and in the aid of not wanting to be left behind, or FOMO, fear of missing out, Jamaicans will do that, because it is similar thing as to why we've shifted the direction. Why a lot of people love foreign things over locally made things. Why a lot of people gravitate to social media and all of these things is because they don't want to miss out on certain things. But as we reshape it, neighbor, and as society shapes us as well, I believe we will still have some people who are at the lower end, but we will see more people stop being intellectually disingenuous, for one. We will also see people leveling up and start to question those who are intellectually disingenuous. Case in point, we wouldn't have been having these conversations 15 years ago, because society never facilitated these. So it shows that we are able to take a step in the right direction. And as we go on this journey and road to Singapore, neighbor, I believe we'll get a lot of things right, but I think it is down to the individual as to what they want and where they want to be and what function they will play in that journey and at that destination to maintain it.
Thank you so much. Hold on. Honestly, on YouTube.
Neighbor, I wanted to take a moment to ask the viewers to subscribe to the channel, and those on TikTok to share the live and repost. And please tap on the screen and send the heart me's. And for those of you on YouTube and X, if you may follow the page for X and subscribe to the YouTube and share the live stream. Thank you.
Yes, okay, thank you so much. And please remember to subscribe to the backup page, that page that is at the bottom of your screen there, the Politics Plus Jamaica, Politics Plus Jamaica. Please follow that page. It is our backup page, and it is very important that you subscribe to that page as well also. Scratchy,
Yes, neighbor.
on the road to Singapore, one of the things that Singapore did was that they kind of suppressed the opposition voice. They really never had much of an opposition. I am thinking, Scratchy, that Jamaica may have to do the same thing, and I'm going to tell you how. Not through the means that Lee Kuan Yew did it, but through performance. I believe, Scratchy, that if the government performs very well, that the opposition voice in Jamaica will weaken over time. Don't you think?
Definitely, neighbor. I would agree with that 100%, because we have seen that from 2016 till present, neighbor. But because of the government, the more the government perform, because of the government performance, it has weakened the opposition People's National Party to some level. So, yes, neighbor, I agree. Once the government continues to perform, once the government continues to reach its benchmark, neighbor, both from an economical situation, from a small man to a big man situation, neighbor. Once each and every Jamaicans, neighbor, majority of Jamaicans, neighbor, can personally look into themselves and say that I have seen improvement in my life. I have seen improvement in my living condition. I have seen improvement in how business is conducted in my country. You know, I know I have more appreciation for the economy. So once neighbor continue to put in the things that Jamaica need, neighbor, in terms of roads, water, infrastructure. Once the government continues to do that, neighbor, the government, neighbor, will definitely be seen, neighbor, as not just a talker, neighbor, but a government that get things done. So without the naysayers, neighbor, without what is happening over this week, neighbor, it is just, neighbor, a testament of how strong the government is, neighbor. Strong walls being shaken, but they never fall.
Yeah, and all governments go through these periods of difficulty, whether in policy, members may fall up there. All governments go through these periods. It is. Look at the Patterson government, Scratchy, in the 90s. There was a scandal breaking every week. Okay, and there were no one held accountable. Let us be reasonable and fair. The government is stable. The government is a honest government. I hear Mr. Hughes today talking about the scourge of corruption hovering over the government. Where is that scourge of corruption, Scratchy?
I definitely don't see a scourge of corruption, neighbor. And this is the problem, neighbor, where we talk about, neighbor. Sometimes these persons mix up perception and reality, neighbor. Yes, neighbor, there's definitely a perception, neighbor, across Jamaica, neighbor, that politicians are corrupt, whether they want to be PNP or JLP. That perception is there. But not because that perception is there, neighbor, it definitely means that that's the reality. Or because, neighbor, there was a time in our history when a government ruled over the country for an extended period of time, and there were so many allegations of corruption that it just became a norm to our society. It became so acceptable to our society, where persons neighbor tend to believe now that the Jamaica Labour Party is the same as that as the opposition People's National Party. But there's a total difference, neighbor. Whenever there's allegations of corruption against any member of Jamaica Labour Party, neighbor, it's either they are vindicated through the court, neighbor. If they are not vindicated, neighbor, the Prime Minister take the necessary actions, and whatever necessary actions is taken, neighbor, it's up to them now to prove them innocent, and in most cases, it is. Or if it is not, it is still before the court. So we just have to understand, neighbor, that to take it even further, neighbor, to our governance structure is done in Jamaica, and to our government system is constructed, neighbor, our politicians, neighbor, are always going to fall victim of allegations of corruption, neighbor. And it is as a result of how our governance structure is no result of the politician fault, neighbor. It is because of how tribal our politics is, neighbor. How demand or how upfront politicians has to get in terms of dealing with certain things to reach the social needs of citizens, neighbor. So based on our system set up, neighbor, our system itself, neighbor, is designed in a way, neighbor, where human beings are not given the benefit of the doubt, neighbor, to a certain extent, neighbor. The system is so rigid that, neighbor, it is set up in a way, neighbor, that these persons or these practitioners will definitely fall victim to this system, neighbor, in terms of some form of allegation or some type of mishaps because of how the system is set up.
And I wonder how, Scratchy, have we reached to the point where the Integrity Commission can basically sink our parliamentarians? I'm not happy with it at all.
I can't be happy with it, neighbor. I'm trying to get
how this bill came about. Who piloted it and put it in place? I mean, we have the Contractor General, we have the Auditor General, and now we come in with the Integrity Commission. What is happening here?
This bill was a big blunder, neighbor. This bill, neighbor, was blundered in such a way, neighbor, where it gave it's like
is this part of what we had to do to get loans from the multilaterals? Is it that they pushed for this type of legislation?
They didn't push for this exact type of legislation, neighbor, or the format of this legislation, neighbor. They pushed, neighbor, for a robust and stronger anti-corruption body, neighbor. The government has a day, neighbor, saw it fit to bring a couple of these anti-corruption agency bodies, neighbor, under one,
right,
called the Integrity Commission. So that was the aim, neighbor.
Can you help me with the history there? What were the ones that came here?
I believe the Contractor General is a part of it, neighbor. I don't already have the
yes.
One.
We have to do the research. We have to do the research for it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a group of them, neighbor, that come together, neighbor, to form one Integrity Commission, neighbor. Where the government said that instead of having 3 or 4 entities carrying out the same functions, it better with us morph them into one mega entity and back it with some form of legislation.
But my God, Scratchy, we don't trust ourselves. You have the FID, you have the PAC in Parliament, you have the Auditor General, you have the contract. Well, you don't have the Contractor General anymore.
No.
Yeah, but we still have the Auditor General. And then we have the Integrity Commission. I mean, it's almost like, boy, I don't know. We don't trust ourselves. That is part of the problem.
And that is the reason, neighbor, for we have seen, neighbor, this government, neighbor, a previous government took advantage of our system, neighbor, and used it to their personal advantage, neighbor. That is why the system is so robust now, and set in this manner, neighbor, where it is hindrance to growth, it is hindrance, neighbor, to the upwardness of Jamaica. It is a result, neighbor, the 18.5 years where politicians, neighbor, use state funds to buy furniture for them house. Politicians use state funds, neighbor, that was designed to pay for our school ground to their own personal use. It is as a result of that 18.5 years, neighbor, why the Jamaica society has grown, neighbor, with this high level of distrust in terms of our politicians. And not just politicians, neighbor, for institutions. Because social disorder, neighbor, is something, neighbor, that rules any country. But the biggest mishaps you can have is when social disorder becomes social norms. And that is what Jamaica is suffering from. Social disorder becomes social norms. So
yes, and we see it, you know, Scratchy. The police are drawn from the society. The soldiers are drawn from the society. The nurses, and Scratchy, the politicians are drawn from the very society. That's why you have Miss Birchall in the parliament behaving like that. It's from the same society. That is what you are talking about. That social disorder becomes social norms. Because if it was an orderly society, we wouldn't have Miss Birchall behaving like that in the parliament.
Exactly, neighbor. If it was a normal society, neighbor, or a society that rules under law and all, neighbor, who would not have this, neighbor, and this high level of lawlessness, neighbor, that strong and morphing down in that 18.5 years of rules by the PNP, neighbor.
Very good point you're making.
Jamaica biggest sore point, neighbor, is that 18.5 years that PNP rule, neighbor. All of our ills, neighbor, and all of our issues, neighbor, they were derived during that time, neighbor. They were manifested and turned into monsters during that time, neighbor. The high level of lawlessness, the appreciation that we see across the country, neighbor, for good governance. You know, the lack of ability of persons to understand law and order and show respect to the state in terms of the state, the security forces. It is a high level of lawlessness that was backed and endorsed by the People's National Party. And Jamaicans never cannot come to the realization now that high level of lawlessness that they were used to so much, neighbor. That becomes such a norm to the neighbor. It is shifting now, and it is so difficult for them to comply, neighbor. It is so hard because they were used to this for 18.5 long years. They were doing this, neighbor, and no one was trying to fix it. No one was trying to shape the narrative. Nothing was being done. And now things are being done in 2020 from 2016 to present. The government is getting all type of rebuttal. The government is getting all type of attacks. Because what? The government is changing the society and putting the society to some level of law and order that a lot of persons don't want to see and don't appreciate. Jamaica, neighbor, the country, neighbor, as much as I would say it's beautiful, as much as I would say Jamaica nice, all we know Jamaica nice, Jamaica will always be home, neighbor. But Jamaica is not suffering, neighbor, from mathematics problem, neighbor. Jamaica is not suffering because our students are not passing mathematics at a very high level in CXC. Jamaica is not suffering, neighbor, from poor English language. Jamaica is not suffering from any of those things, neighbor. Jamaica is suffering, neighbor, from a high level of informality that the country has manifested over an extended period of time, where persons don't have the respect for institutions. So our problem, neighbor, it's not one that, neighbor, when you're going to the classroom, neighbor, and it is taught to you. That is not what Jamaica is.
It is to unlearn. It is to unlearn behavior that we should not have learned in the first place.
Exactly, neighbor. And it is not being taught in any schools or any class, neighbor. These are social behaviors, neighbor. And social behaviors, neighbor, are being taught from the home. And that is where Jamaica is failing. Jamaica is failing from a home standpoint, neighbor. Jamaica is failing from a parenting standpoint, neighbor. That is where our nation is failing. Government can do all of them want to do now, neighbor. And Joe Wallace could have put minimum wage at 80,000 a week if the society, neighbor, don't get themselves in order and understand law and order. It's going to be chaotic same way. It's going to be mayhem same way. We're still going to suffer from social ill same way because the society still don't catch up, neighbor, with what is going on. The problem in Jamaica, neighbor, is before Milan, Jamaica, neighbor, is is moving at such a rapid pace, neighbor, and a majority of the citizens in Jamaica, neighbor, are failing to catch up with the advancement and development and the changes of Jamaica, neighbor. And that is where Jamaica is going wrong, neighbor. The country is advancing, the country is making change, neighbor, and the citizenry, or the citizens, neighbor, they are lacking in getting themselves involved, neighbor, to line up with the vision, the goals, and the aspiration of the country and the government by extension. That is where Jamaica is failing from. Persons up to this day still believe that the construction site are going in a community, you must go over there and put a name on the list, and you don't do the farmer work, and you still collect pay. Those things are abolished. Them days they done. You have to go till the soil. So the social norms, we are take time break out time, but a lot of persons they are getting left behind. Because why? They believe there's a hope. There's a hope. Never you're going to say, Scratchy, where is this hope? The hope is the People's National Party. The people in the country, neighbor, who don't believe in a land order, neighbor. Why them don't want?
They don't want to change. They're not going to change because they're just waiting for their side to come back.
They're waiting for their side to come back, neighbor. That's why they're not changing. These people are not changing, neighbor, because there's an alternative, and there's an alternative, neighbor. There's a political organization that leads into them, that feeds into them, and give them the belief that whenever we are in power, and whenever we take back state power, all of the problems them can go right back to the norms, and we won't have an issue, we won't have a problem. That is why a high majority of the society is failing to accept the changes, is failing to move forward with the changes, because there's a hope, them are hoping at the People's National Party.
Yeah, and that is a powerful thing in a Scratchy, hope.
Hope, neighbor.
And that is why I'm saying that this road to Singapore is much more difficult than we thought, because there is the minds of people, Scratchy. Because if you have 400,000 Jamaicans who say we just wait for the PNP come back, we can't say what we want to say. We just wait for our party to come back, and they are going to do everything to try for that to happen. So even if the Labour Party wins a fourth term, those people don't go away. They are still going to hope that the PNP will eventually come back.
Yeah, but they're going to still continue to hope, and the reason why they're going to still continue to hope, neighbor, because the leadership of that political party called the PNP, neighbor, they are not coming out now and telling these people that, yes, let's be real with them. Get in line and understand that it's a technologically advanced time now. Get in line and understand that the Jamaica that you were used to has changed. Get in line and understand that the security forces changed. This government is not, the opposition, them support is not telling them that, neighbor. Their hope is telling them that all this killing or whatever allegation of extradition killing that is going on by the police, or the pressure that police is pressuring criminals and moving in this space and moving in that space, whenever we come to power, it will stop.
Okay.
I don't can't get the money off a construction site again. Whenever we come to power, it will stop. When we start getting the money. That is the narrative that the opposition is selling. They might not say it word to word, but that is the narrative. Because when you vote against the state extension of state of emergency, you're telling the people that, okay, we stand with you now, we're going to make sure the police don't attack you. When you vote against NITS, that is supposed to bring some form of law and order to the people in terms of the distribution of government aid and government services. You tell the people them say mark on the peace and them take on the right, and you bring the government to court for that. When you look at even constitutional reform is so broad, neighbor. We're going to step away from the monarch. It's going to make you introduce term limits now upon our politicians and our government. There's a lot of things that constitutional reform, a lot of our laws that is outdated. The whole constitutional reform thing. And yeah, this PNP government, a whole of constitutional reform. Get the word hurricane now called Hurricane Melissa. Category 6, them say, some say. Category 5.5, category 3 and 3/4. Whatever it is, neighbor. Massive destruction. 58% of the economy gone. Greatest now, the Prime Minister and Jones crafting this bill called NARA. National Reconstruction Bill to rebuild the country, make the country more resilient, make the country more stronger, and you still go to the parliament and you vote against that. You tell the people and say it is okay to continue to live in squabble. You tell the people and say it is okay to continue to live like hog and dogs. You tell the people and say it is okay because once you live in these squabbles and these unhealthy living conditions, it's going to lead to lawlessness. It's going to lead to some form of anarchy. That is what the PNP, and that is the oath, neighbor. Why 400 Jamaicans went out and voted for the People's National Party, because those 400,000 Jamaicans, neighbor, are persons who only concerned about themselves and concerned about whenever the PNP is in power, how it benefit them. from a personal standpoint and not the country from a holistic approach or a holistic standpoint.
Thank you so much, sir. Very, very good. Very, very good points you have introduced there. I made notes and I definitely will speak to these in the coming days. Honeybee, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, neighbor.
Good evening to you,
Neighbor,
my dear.
I have 2 points, really.
Yes.
I'm talking about Andrew Weekly situation, and I'm saying.
By the way, hold on, Honeybee. Listeners, we are broadcasting on two separate pages, okay? So we are on the Hello Neighbor Show and the Hello Neighbor podcast. So we are on 2 separate devices, all right? So please bear with us. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, and I'm saying, to my knowledge, I don't know if anything changed today. He was recommended to be charged, but he was not yet charged. So I'm saying, all day, if you ever have a minute to go on TikTok or any listen to any of the media station, they will be telling the story will be like he should step down and the Prime Minister should.
I will tell you this, ma'am. I guard what I hear. People say I don't go on people's program. I do, but I guard what I hear, ma'am. I'm not going to listen to it, you know. I'm telling the truth, ma'am.
No.
I'm not listening to them foolishness there.
No, because when I go and I sit and I start to like you're scrolling and I'll be like, I'll go scrolling and I'm saying.
No, I'm not stopping to listen to that, ma'am. Not doing it.
All day you'll be hearing. And another thing they're on is that about the situation about the people stopping over in Jamaica to go wherever. I don't have a full knowledge of that, so I'm not going to comment on that. But for the Andrew Wheatley situation, I'm saying a man is innocent until proven guilty. And this man was out of government for 7 years. So what he has, there is no way they can say steal anything from government illicitly enrich himself, because he was out of government. This is his private business. And okay, you inflate the numbers and the numbers are not matching, but yet still you recommend him for him to be charged. Okay, let the law take its course. Now I heard the lawyer said that he is asking for the DPP to get a forensic accountant to go over the numbers.
Yes.
Right? And I said all of that has to be done because it has to be investigated. You can't just say a man is guilty until all the investigation is completed. And the court do what it has to do and find him guilty or not guilty. So why is it that everybody is putting a pressure on the Prime Minister? No, if you listen, they said that they asked the tax administration to go over the tax that Weekly company should have paid since what Weekly is saying that
I tell you this, Honeybee. This case cannot be tried in the media.
Yes, I understand, but I'm making a point.
I'm not going against the point you are making, but I'm saying that the case can be tried in the media. So all of these people who are opining on Wheatley's matter, it's a large waste of time, you know. Because a lot of them, ma'am, I don't think they have read the report. They haven't read the report.
And if someone is going over the report and dissecting it, they will not listen because it's not giving them what they want to hear. They will not listen. And I'm saying you can talk to the tax administration about Mr. Wheatley and Dennis Garden that defrauded the tax administration. Get away scot-free. You did not say in the US, neighbor, if you try to short the IRS money, you will face consequences. We saw it with Wesley Snipes. Remember, Wesley Snipes went to prison for it. So I don't understand how Dennis Garden, and remember, he admitted that it has been going on for over 20 years. So he paid back $10 million, but obviously get away with a lot more. Right? And I'm saying, how can you ask the Prime Minister? And these church groups is getting on my nerve. So I totally disregard them. I don't pay any attention. The civil society, I disregard them also. I don't pay any attention. But my point is, why?
And you know, ma'am, that is unfortunate. You know, hold on. That is unfortunate, you know, because the moral conscience of a society ought to be from the religious community.
Yes.
And civic society also represent apolitical, non-political views that are also very important. But here we are at a point in Jamaica where civil society is being labeled as having political interests. And you are also saying that the church is not, you don't think the church has a credible voice to speak on this?
Because when you have pastor that is on a pulpit preaching, and you know, I don't know, when you live in the inner city, they would say you're throwing word. Remember that pastor at the funeral, his behavior towards the Prime Minister before he collapsed. And that wasn't the place or the time for that. And then you have another pastor is saying a lot of ridiculous stuff, and they are saying things, and you know it's political. So a person that is outside of the church looking in is saying to himself, why should I listen to you preaching to me when you don't know how to understand that the church and the state is two different things?
Let me ask you a personal question, Honeybee. You go to church, eh?
Yes, I do.
And I would consider you to be a Christian.
Yes, I am.
And you are a supporter of the Jamaica Labour Party.
Yes, I am.
So you being a Christian or a churchgoer don't prevent you from getting involved in politics and for even active politics.
You have to learn to split hairs.
Yes.
For me, I am not going to see something going wrong and I support it because I am a Labourite. I don't do those stuff. Because wrong is wrong and right is right. And you have to understand that you can't see something and you're going to say, I don't care. I'm have to step down. When you did not hold the same position, fraud the government of its revenue. He admitted and he went ahead and said that it's something that has been going on for 20 years and you did not ask for him to step away. You did not. And the opposition leader, he spoke to his member and he will let the chips will fall where it may, and that's that and nothing more was said. But now you are standing firm on your ground, and for me that's bias.
Yeah,
you're standing firm that this man should go. Why didn't you take the same stand? That's where I have a problem, you know. This my grandmother say the same, go for the sheep, go for the goat. You cannot expect to hold one set of people to a different standard than you hold the other, while two of them is public servants. All of them is there because somebody voted and put them there.
Yeah. Gonna have to run though.
All of them answer to us.
Gonna have to run. Konibu, take care of yourself. Always great hearing from you.
Okay, thank you, neighbor. Same here.
Fantastic, you are. You are a fantastic lady. Well, listeners, on YouTube, that's gonna do it for us tonight, you know, until we meet again tomorrow. My friends on X, wow, the numbers over YouTube, great tonight. Thank you so much, Natalie, for joining us earlier, and my friends over there on X, Patreon. Please remember to like and subscribe. Please remember to go to the Hello Neighbour store and purchase a merch. Please also remember to request if you want to join the Neighbor Rights group. Yes, and we will hear from you on the other side of next week. If we're not here tomorrow, then we'll be here on Sunday, definitely. But I think with all that is happening, it's more than likely that we're going to be here with you tomorrow. Until we meet again tomorrow, YouTube, take care of yourselves. I'm going to throw over to Harry for, oh, he's gone. Yes. All right. Shefreen, all right. Thank you for all that you do. And thank you to YouTube. This brings tonight's program to an end. It was great having you. And thank you. Have a great weekend, everybody.